You are now entering a dangerous liberty zone where God-given natural rights are held sacred and exercised. This is your warning. Tyranny, fascism, and censorship will not be tolerated. Ideas will be exchanged freely. Rigorous debate and open discourse is encouraged. If you are weak and your beliefs are fragile, you should leave now. Prepare yourself. We are now live on the Dangerous Liberty Podcast. All right, folks, what is happening? Happy Monday, everybody. We got a great show for you today. I'm excited. We're going to bring on our guest in just a minute, but I was just made aware that the disinformation, the smear campaign blitzkrieg against me via Candace Owens is just continuing. Apparently now I'm part of the conspiracy. I have been paid off by the government because they bought some stuff from us. We'll get into that a little bit, but it's just hilarious to continue to see her lie, smear, defame. And if you haven't seen my video that I released just a little while ago at 5 p.m. today, make sure you go watch that. I give you all the receipts. We show you once again that she's just lying, and that's what she's going to continue to do. And it is what it is. But I want to say hi to everybody over in the chat. The obscure moderator, we always love you, buddy. All our mods, thank you guys for showing up and doing what you guys do over in the chat, keeping it civil over there. Folks, we definitely encourage disagreement. What we're not going to do is add homonyms or just trolling. We're going to boot you. We want to make sure that we can have open and honest discourse in this, and that doesn't include just name calling and being a jackass. Simple as that. Natalie Herman, thank you for coming in. Lori Matthews is OG on Paramount Tactical. Cindy Shepard, Nikki for Freedom, Donald Skywalker, and many, many more. If you haven't said hello, make sure you do. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you like, subscribe. And also, if you'd like to support this channel and the work that we do, down in the description below is a link. You become a member. We really appreciate that. It's a couple bucks a month. It goes a long way. And also make sure you're following us on all our other social media, especially X. I've been trying to get more and more active on X. Quite frankly, I think X is the platform of the future. I would like to see them start making kind of like a video catalog, much like YouTube. And I think if they do that, they got it in the back. They do everything. But without further ado, I want to bring on the magnanimous, the amazing Nate Livingstone with MilkBar TV. Nate, what's happening, buddy? How are you?
I'm good. I don't know what this is going to do for my reputation. Coming on a Feds Psy-Ops channel, but it's good to be here. Boy, she's been coming at you hard lately.
Oh man, it is interesting to watch. It was really in response. Her and Barron started going crazy. I released that video the other day, just on X. It got over, I think it's over 160,000 views, talking about the Brian Harpole lawsuit, and I think that. And rightfully so, I got under her skin. I mean, it's just a fact. She decided to go after Harpole with malice, with intent, with disregard for the truth, everything that they need to prove, and also ultimately win that lawsuit against Candace Owens. And then we had the Beard lawyer on, and he went through that. And I thought it was a strong case, but you never know how these things are going. And I think he laid out the facts of that and going through that piece by piece. I thought it was really, and I don't know if you had a chance to watch that, but I think that was a really informative show, and hearing his perception of all of it and his, coming from a professional standpoint, I thought was great. But real quick, Nathan, if you don't mind, for people that don't know you, because I know it's like next week sometimes because you're in Australia, so you're like 5 days ahead or something. But if you will, just tell everybody a little bit about yourself, and then we'll kind of get into it a little bit.
Yeah, I'm. My background was in independent filmmaking, so that's always been my passion. We were talking about this just a little bit backstage, but the reason I started making videos on social media, and really only started engaging in social media, was because of COVID. So yeah, I'm Australian, so we had it pretty hardcore down here, pretty much I ended up taking a stand against vaccine mandates and lost my day job as a forklift driver. And so finding myself in this crazy position where it was illegal for me to work where I was living, I started making videos just pretty much pointing out what I thought were inconsistencies and just kind of all the craziness that was going on during COVID. And then from there, I just started to expand and explore other topics that led me first to Andrew Tate. And then from there, it was to Candace Owens and to a bunch of these others who I would call grifters. And so it was a lot of the same people that were kind of floating in the same pool that I was, that was pushing back against what we thought was a over the top response to COVID. So I found myself in this position where I think I think it's more valuable for me to challenge people who are on my side, if you'd say that, people who are more on the right, as I'd probably, pigeon myself into if I had to. I find that that's more valuable because I think you can have more of an honest critique as opposed to, say, the left when they're attacking the right, where it becomes very, very tribalistic and becomes bad faith. And I think actually isn't very useful, So yeah, I mean that's short story kind of how I've arrived here at making videos on social media.
Well, you're kind of known for videos that kind of compare and contrast a person against themselves, and I love what you do. You also are known for kind of making these big super cuts of, I played one on my video today. I featured you in my content that I released today. Hopefully you get a chance to see that, but it was great to see. It's great to see your medium and how effective it actually is, because it's quick, it's easy, it's consumable. It doesn't require a lot of additional commentary for people to understand what's being said and what's being done, and to highlight the hypocrisy or the silliness of whatever is going on. As a matter of fact, I haven't seen this. I just went to your X feed just a second ago, and I'm going to pull up this video. I don't even know what it is, but we're going to play it real quick. It is of Candace. And folks, if you haven't done so already, make sure you go down to the description below and make sure you follow. We got Nathan, all of his social media down there. So make sure you guys go give him a follow, and he's doing great work, and we want to support him in that regard as well. So real quick, here's this video. I haven't seen it, don't know what it is, but we're going to watch it. And it's just one of many that he makes on Candace and many others out there.
No one, and I mean absolutely no one, outside of my husband and Erica Kirk has the power to shut me up right now. That's it. Two people. If you got to make an appeal, you got to go to them. And like I said, there's nobody that has the capacity to get me to shut up about this except for Erica Kirk and my husband. Those are the only people that I will answer to. I am on this journey to figure out what happened on that day. I'm not going to stop unless Erica Kirk asks me to stop, as I have said. I said early on, if Erica Kirk asks me to be quiet, I will be quiet.
And so my message to them is to stop. To stop.
Super fun show today. Erica has gone off on conspiracy theorists. It's about me. It's indirect, but it's also about me.
And you go after the people that I love, and you're making hundreds and thousands of dollars every single episode going after the people that I love because somehow they're in on this. No.
I'm sorry, but that whole thing right there is frustrating. And I'm going to explain to you why. I just do not accept any of that. What you are watching here is an unbelievably emotional response that is absent of any logic. And it's no from me.
Podcaster Candace Owens, she is building her business off of these lies. What do you want to say to her? Stop. That's it. That's all I have to say. Stop.
Please stop. Please stop lying. I understand. I comprehend. What I don't comprehend is what I've lied about. Because she's a widow, we can't question her judgment. And I want to say that I reject that. I reject emotional manipulation.
Folks, I just want to kind of highlight something. This is something Candace does and all disinformation agents do, is they pivot, right? She didn't tell her to stop lying. And here we have Candace just adding that in there. Like, I'm not lying. Well, nobody said that you were lying. You are. I mean, that's kind of obvious. But what she said was stop. And you said the only way that you would stop is that if Candace, that if Erica Kirk or your husband told you to stop. But now we just like move it to something else. Like, I'm not lying. That's not, they're always moving the goalpost and distracting you from the material claim. That's really what it always comes down to.
Told that if we said stop, they would stop. And we said stop. And I'll say it again. Please stop.
I am starting to work through some of the questions that people have about her background. She was brought in as his handler to move him in that direction. She had him starry-eyed and wrapped around her finger. I can assert that I feel completely comfortable that saying or stating clearly that Erica is definitively aware and familiar with the Fort Huachuca base, intel base, because once upon a time she shot a teaser for a short film there or around there.
The issue is not that they were barely legal teens, which is what it is. It's horrendous. It's awful. It's pedophilia. Okay, relax. No, the issue is that Epstein is a Jewish spy, probably working with Israel.
Honestly, this is a time where it is appropriate to say this.
Stop. That's it. That's all I have to say. Stop.
Agree. I watched stuff. Just stop.
So Nathan, man, you kind of have found like your niche and how to communicate, and I love it. And like, how did that come about? Was that kind of organic? You just kind of, I think we all do, is like, as we start creating content, we don't really know where to begin. We kind of get out there and kind of fumble around, and then we kind of, I don't know, find what we're comfortable with, what works for us. How did you come across this kind of like formula for communication? Because it's super effective, and I love it.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, because I never call myself a journalist or a reporter. That's just not how I see myself. So I see myself first and foremost as a filmmaker. That's where it's like, it's as much about how I actually present information as it is what the information is. The number one thing is that, whatever I present, there'll be an idea behind it. It'll always be fact-based. I never take things out of context, despite, people always, that's always the assertion, things are taken out of context. And I always lay down the challenge to provide the missing context, and no one ever does. So that's the thing. It's like, whatever I present has to be honest, has to be an idea. But, for me as a filmmaker, it's also, it has to be entertaining. So that's as important as the idea. And I think that's why they're effective. So it's about trying to find creative ways to actually present this information that's engaging. This is where I think, especially with Andrew Tate, I got to this point. But I was doing a little bit with COVID as well, where, I just felt that, you would see people who would repeat these lines. So it would be this messaging, a narrative, whatever it was. And, you could tell most of the time it was people who hadn't really thought these things through. They were just parroting something they heard someone else say. Now, Candace Owens fans, you see this, 1,000%. You literally see something, you'll post about it, but then she'll do her episode, and then all her cold followers will come out just repeating exactly what she said. So she's very good at that. So what I aim to do is to create short little videos that can pretty much dispel what these things are. And that's where, I find that using people's own words is very effective. Because when someone says, no, Candace never said that, and then you can present, here she is clearly saying that, there's not much they can say to that. That's how I've got there. So it took me years to get there. And like you said, it really is, you kind of do mess around. I was doing a lot of meme satire type stuff early days, but now I found the especially the before and after, I think is very effective. And I do, it's like what you said before with my videos, there is something where there's a lot of talking heads out there. There's a lot of people who present information, the TikTok, Instagram style things, where they'll play clips and then they'll explain the clip. And that's great. It's a great way to communicate information. But I do feel like there is a problem with a lot of people where they've lost the ability to be analytical and to think for themselves. For them to be able to look at something and for them to be able to unpack it, understand what they're seeing and the techniques of the commentator, of what they're watching, of what they're actually utilizing on their audience. And that's where I fear that, I appreciate people who use my videos and use it for those short form things and explain what I'm doing. But I do feel like it's important for people to be able to watch things and for them to be able to learn the tools to be able to unpack what they're seeing. Because I do fear that that's being lost, especially with young people. They're very easily manipulated.
Yeah, and we also have a really most of our audience, most of any audience today has a very short attention span. And I'm a very detail oriented guy. And like one of the when I first got into YouTube, it sounds like we got into YouTube around the same time COVID. I did mostly gun videos and things like that. And I'm a very detail oriented person. And one of the biggest complaints, the thing that people always loved on the 2A side of things is they loved how detailed I was. And then they hated how detailed I was.
Yeah.
But, one of the things I had nothing, I didn't like Twitter at all. And I'm talking old Twitter. But I like the idea of learning, because there's an art to being concise, right? And I started kind of piddling around on Twitter right about that time, just to kind of play around with learning to communicate more and less words. And I think what you do is like the most concise that you can possibly be to get your point across. And I think there's a real art to it. And as you stated, because I'm always watching this stuff and I've learned a lot from your videos. So how you communicate, how effective it is, what you do, the techniques you use. And so I'm paying attention because I try to be a student of communication. And that is one thing that I've tried to add into my videos, exactly that. Because Candace is fun with this, because pretty much any stance that there is to have on something, she's had that. So you can literally go back and pull her content and have her argue against herself. Or like she said, a great example of this is she did one of her videos. She talked about how she confirmed that, this statement was made by Charlie Kirk by a donor that he wanted Erica Kirk to succeed him. And, that is, and now she's saying that never happened. So, using people's own words against them, or in the last video, I also like to use her own sycophant words against her, using some of Baron Coleman. So it's very effective. And I'm glad you're out there doing what you're doing, because what you do, and you also see it. I see people stealing your content all the time. And I'll be honest with you folks, I don't really care if you steal my Candace Owens content. You can chop that stuff up and send it all over the place. I don't care. You can claim it as your own for all I care, because the message is what matters. But I know you do this, kind of full time. And more than once I've called people out. I'm like, hey man, that's MilkBar TV stuff. So no, you've made a huge impact, and I hope you realize that. And I know sometimes it feels like we're just a bobber in the sea, but you're making a huge impact, and thank you for what you do, for sure.
Yeah. I appreciate people sharing it. It's the Twitter one where people rip it off. It's it's the big accounts, the grifter accounts, who rip it off and monetize it. That's the thing that I don't appreciate. But I do. This is the thing. As I said, I started with Andrew Tate, so I do want to push a fundraiser and do a plug. Because the Candace videos, they all started with Andrew Tate. They all started with her running, I believe, defense for him, because George Farmer, her husband, is old-time friends with Andrew Tate. So they go way back. So Candace Owens has known about Andrew Tate. In her own words, has known that he's a pimp since 2019. So way before he was even arrested or anything. She was made aware that he was a pimp in Romania. So my coverage of Andrew Tate, and it's exactly the same coverage that I've done with Candace Owens, where I'm very thorough and fact-based, and primarily just use people's own videos to contradict what they're saying currently. And Andrew Tate is still currently charged with human trafficking, a whole lot of horrific allegations. And there's a lot of videos that I believe show him confessing and snitching to these alleged crimes. And for my coverage, she's now been dragging me through court for over a year now with a frivolous defamation lawsuit. And this is the thing, I've got truth on my side, but these things still cost money. You still got to pay for.
Hold on, real quick, just on clear. Andrew Tate is suing you for defamation, or Candace Owens is?
Andrew Tate is suing me for defamation. Yeah, there was a point where I wouldn't be surprised if Candace Owens sued me for defamation too, until she started getting sued for defamation. Where I think now, I don't think she could do that because it would be too hypocritical. But yeah, so it's been over a year now that Andrew Tate has been dragging me and several other accounts through court in Florida. And so, we're at the point now where we've raised a bit of a 50 grand, but we're needing a lot more to keep going, to keep defending ourselves. So I think you have attached the link, but it is at givesendgo.com/free speech versus Tate. And you can read all about the lawsuit there. And if you can support us, and even if you can't support us financially, just try and get the word out. That would be appreciated, because it's my belief that the Tates never have any intention to win this thing. They're just trying to drag it out as long as possible to try and punish me and the others who've been covering their criminal cases. So yeah, I just wanted to bring awareness to that.
No, we're happy to support you in any way that we possibly can. Jen, do we indeed have that link down in the description? If we don't, I want to make sure that it's there. Let me see. Rumble, Instagram. I'm not seeing that. Let's do two things, Jen. If you are there, let's make sure we get that link in the description. And I also want to put that link in the chat so they can go act on that right away.
Yeah, so, it is. We are at crunch time where we're going to need to raise quite a bit of money to keep going. So unfortunately, we are at that point. But yeah, so your support would mean a lot. Yeah, I mean, you're.
And definitely, like, periodically remind me, and I'll make sure that I'll retweet it, push it, do it, everything we can to get you taken care of, man.
I'll do a video. I'll do a video today where I'm going to actually show the timeline of how this has been dragged out for so long, and how we've actually been winning. It was dismissed in December, but they've now amended it. So, but I'm going to do a video today. So even go to my Twitter account, and there should be a video up later today. Or in the next day, and I'll present all that so you can find out more from there.
Awesome. We'll make sure that we share that content for sure. Yeah. If Candace keeps going in the direction that she is against me, I'll be raising money for a lawsuit as well, because things are getting.
Well, I tell you what, she's come after me, in the past, because I've been covering her for 3 years now. So she's come after me quite a bit and accused me of all the same things. Of it always shifts from being working as Zionist, part of a Zionist op or the feds, but if she's coming over you, that means that you're doing damage, and she's having to try and cover herself because you're over the target.
Yeah, no, I think it's wild. I have my reasons for going after Candace. I'm curious to kind of hear your thought, because look, a lot of people don't understand this, and I still see people like, Gary, why are you doing this? Why are you wasting your time with this? It's definitely not about making money. This is to make you popular, that's for sure. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Like, what was it? Obviously, you kind of have some history with Candace. And folks, I see the super chats that are taking place over there. We will definitely get to those in the next little bit. We will prioritize the super chats, and I promise we'll get all your questions in. But I am curious, like, with this go around with the Charlie Kirk incident and how she's exploiting his death and pushing these, I still have a hard time wrapping my brain around the fact that people buy into these just idiotic and so low IQ conspiracies. Like, what was the thing that stood out most to you when you started, that compelled you to start talking about this particular incident regarding Candace? But number two, I'd also like to hear your insight or what you think. her draw is. Like, what are these people drawn to? Because I love the psychology behind all this.
Yeah, so the first video I made on Andrew Tate, it was after his interview with Tucker Carlson. So Tucker Carlson had been fired from Fox.
Yeah.
He then launched his new program, the new network, Tucker Carlson Network. And his first interview, he was still doing exclusives with X at that point in time. And his first interview was with Andrew Tate. And this is weeks after Andrew Tate was indicted for human trafficking. I don't know what words we can and can't say, but, you know,
sure,
allegedly horrible things towards women. Yes. And so, yeah, Tucker Carlson interviewed him weeks after that. And it was because of that interview that I made a video on Andrew Tate. And I wasn't particularly interested in Andrew Tate, but that piqued my interest. And, you know, I found that I believe that he lied about what he was charged with criminally. I thought that was very peculiar. Why I understand why people would deny things, claim all sorts of things. To lie about what you're charged with, something that's black and white, there's no gray there. That says a lot to me about whether someone's innocent or guilty.
So what was he charged with, and then what did he say he was charged with? Because that is
so he was charged with human trafficking. He was charged with starting organized crime. He was charged with forcible sex with a woman. Again, I don't know what words. I don't want to get you, you know, in trouble. But 2 counts of that, and his brother was also charged, Tristan Tate, with similar charges, including inciting a violent act against one of the alleged victims, and they had 2 accomplices as well. So that was the first criminal investigation in Romania. Subsequently, he was charged with another, even far more crimes. Doubling down on those charges that were already there with separate victims, but also sex with a minor, trafficking a minor, and money laundering, tampering with witnesses. And this took the alleged victim tally to, I believe, close to 50 at this point in time. And it's expanded into now there's charges in the UK where they'll be extradited and go to trial there. It's very complicated. The whole Andrew Tate saga is very complicated, and I believe that's why they know it's complicated and they can muddy the waters by crafting it however they want to make it look like it's, you know, it's not how it is. But, you know, I did my first video on Andrew Tate where I pretty much exposed what I believe were those lies in the Tucker Carlson interview. That video got over 12 million impressions. Andrew Tate had been largely attacked from the left up to this point, and I feel like he had a safe haven on the right. He was being embraced by what he was saying about men, pushing back against COVID, pushing back against all these sorts of things that I think conservatives, they liked all of that, and they dismissed the other stuff that they didn't like. And they said, well, he's saying all these good things, you know, the other stuff he's joking about, it's a persona. So that's why he was largely embraced. After my video came out, he was pretty much denounced widely from conservative commentators, including everyone on the Daily Wire except for Candace Owens. Candace Owens was the outlier, and she responded after my video came out, and that week with everyone denouncing Andrew Tate, she responded by immediately flying to Romania to do an interview with him, where it was just, you know, this soft interview where I believe that they completely just pushed this agreed upon narrative, where it was far worse than the Tucker Carlson one, where they said, oh, he stopped doing the webcam business 10 years ago. He had nothing to do with the webcam 10 years ago. Meanwhile, there's videos of him during COVID, you know, so we're talking about, you know, a year before this interview where he's saying that the webcam business is still up and running. A lot of this kind of
everybody understands real quick. I don't, I mean, but I want to let people, like, this is essentially OnlyFans. He has like dozens of girls that are basically performing lewd acts and showing body parts for money.
Yes, and My Free Cams as well was another webcam site. Yes, so we're talking about pornography. It's pornography.
Yeah.
This is the other thing, is that he would say, I believe he would say, I need to be careful because I'm being sued by him, so I'm choosing my words carefully.
Yep.
I believe that he would say over and over again, including with Candace Owens, that it was just TikTok. So the line he would say was, I just help some friends who were girls manage their TikTok accounts. That's it. Now, over time, and I think, largely because a lot of these videos from his past came out, he had to change that line, and it shifted because, of course, that's absurd. You have hours of him not only admitting to running pornography sites, but also teaching tutorials on how other men can not only run pornography sites, but also recruit women into pornography sites using what I believe is the Loverboy method that he was charged with. So human trafficking. So I believe that there was videos of him teaching the human trafficking method that he was then charged with. I don't think he realized that it was human trafficking. I think he's just a moron like Candace Owens. But that's what he was doing. So anyway, this is my thing, is that if you want to see grifters, if you want to understand grifters and people who are kind of phonies and fakes, it's really good to become an expert in one area, because then when you see a commentator or these people enter into that area and talk about it, it becomes very, very clear that they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So usually that's how it can kind of lift your eyes. And probably with your experience with guns and things like that, the 30-06 thing is probably a great example of that.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine with you, where you're like, okay, these guys have no clue what they're talking about. And so for me, that was Andrew Tate. I became just, I read the indictment, read all the legal documents, and watched all his videos from the past. And so I then understood very clearly the interviews that he gave, not only when I believe Andrew Tate was lying, but when I believe that his friends who would interview him were also in on pushing some of these narratives. And Candace Owens was the biggest one by far who did that. So she not only ran with these narratives, I mean, literally in that first interview that I'm saying in response to my video, she showed a video from this past of one of these tutorials that I believe is the Loverboy method that he was charged with. And they very, very selectively only showed a little part of that. And then Candace then allowed Andrew Tate to explain what that video was. And he said, oh, it was a dating video. It was talking about how hard it is to run a business like this while maintaining relationships. But you can see on other side of that, it's very clearly not that. He even talks about what camera to buy to run these webcam sites. He talks about how you should hide the fact that you're, running webcam sites, and that your intention all along is to get girls into webcam sites, and to not reveal that until after you've had sex with them. All of these manipulation tactics. And so that's where I see that. I see Candace knows what she's doing because she herself has chosen this clip. And she's aware that other side of that, it is very clearly not that. It's exactly the same thing with the Tyler Robinson thing, with the body cam footage from the past, where it was the thing of like, he doesn't say vehicle, see? He says car. It's exactly the same playbook. Same playbook. We skip just a few minutes ahead. He says vehicle, but she selectively decides, I don't want to show my audience that. That doesn't help with the narrative that I'm pushing. So let's just cut that out, pretend it doesn't exist. And I know my audience is dumb enough that they're not going to bother to do their due diligence to actually fact check me on this. So, this is a long way of saying it's all the same tactics that she's been using. But I caught on to this back when she was still at the Daily Wire. So that's when I was awake to just how malignant and manipulative, and just she's just a compulsive liar. She just does not care about the truth whatsoever. And she did all sorts of other things with the Andrew Tate. She attacked one of his alleged victims. She defended 5 grown men who had sexual relationships with this alleged victim. So one of Andrew Tate's alleged victims, when he was a minor, she defended a convicted child molester. And she beeped the name of the convicted child molester while she attacked and named the minor that was molested over 100 times. So this is who Candace Owens is. So this is why it's like I've known that she was evil and capable of doing all these things years ago. And it is very cathartic to now see that a lot of people are wise to it. It's very unfortunate that it comes at the cost of TPUSA, Erica Kirk, and a whole lot of people having to have their lives, having to be endlessly harassed. I mean, it's horrible, but it is in some ways cathartic for me to see more people awake to just how horrible and morally bankrupt Candace Owens is.
Well, and for people that haven't seen this video, I have it pulled up right here. I want to show them this video as well, because this is extremely powerful.
That this one girl, that she in fact is the predator, and that these 5 grown men are the victims.
She has a chain of victims going back several years to when she was a minor.
Now, Candace Owens portrays these grown men as young men.
This young man, Dustin Milner, a young man named Tyler Hensel.
These were not young men in the early 20s, okay? These were men who were aged 34 up to nearly 60. Now, all 5 of these grown men were with this girl, ranging from when she was 15 to 17 years old. And the age of consent in Florida, if you're over 24, is 18. But they're all the victims, according to Candace Owens, not the teenage girl.
You have a woman who is doing this to men.
That's also important to point out that ignorance is not a defense in Florida. It's absolutely up to these grown men for them to confirm and know the age of the woman that they're having sex with. So Candace Owens' defense, it's not even a legal defense.
On multiple occasions, she has accused innocent men of horrific crimes, resulting in their unjust incarceration.
Now, the problem for Candace Owens is that one of these men was actually convicted of molesting this girl when she was a minor.
58-year-old Keith Fox posed for a mugshot Tuesday. Police say he had sex with a 15-year-old girl.
Essentially, it was believed that she was having sexual relations with him, and the courts found that to be true. And he is now been sentenced to 24 years in prison.
And he was not only convicted of molesting her, but convicted of molesting another minor as well.
There were 2 girls that were involved in that case, just to be clear, and one of the girls admitted flat out to having an outright sexual relationship with him, including sexual intercourse.
Now, what does Candace Owens do? Because she realized that this is a big problem in the narrative that she's attempting to push. She beeps the name of the convicted child molester.
The only reason I'm not going to name him is because at the time of the allegations against him,
minor's name
was in fact a minor. And that, of course, is relevant. So we just want to be ethical here.
So, folks, she's hiding the name of this convicted child molester while she's naming the victim all throughout this segment, by the way. And this is one of the things that Nathan does such a great job highlighting. And he brought this video to my attention, and it just shows you the hypocrisy and how disingenuous this woman is, especially when she starts talking about the Epstein files and using that as a political weapon against Trump, among other people.
Throughout this episode, by the way, you're going to hear some beeps when I'm discussing this case. If I accidentally say his name, we intend to just beep it out.
Yes, she beeps the name of the convicted child molester, yet she names the molested child over and over again. Like I said, the entire episode was dedicated to attacking and discrediting this girl who was a minor when she was involved with this convicted child molester and with these other grown men, because she doesn't want you to look into the case to realize that there's no basis for this narrative that she's attempting to push.
And not expose his name so that people can look up the case because, as I said, she was underage at the time.
His name is Keith Fox, okay? That's who...
How does that make any sense?
It makes no sense.
Expose
it makes no sense. She says, this is what she tries to do. She's like, okay, this girl was a minor when she was molested by this child molester. So we've got to beep the child molester's name because she was a minor. But yet the whole episode is dedicated to attacking the minor. It makes zero sense whatsoever. And she's never been challenged on this. Not once has she been challenged on this.
It's insane.
She's beeping the name of, and you can look it up. It is publicly available.
The arrest report shows that the teen's mother hired a private investigator to follow her daughter and Fox. Last June, while Fox's wife was away on business, the investigator saw the teen at the front window of Fox's home, quote, in the nude, touching one another in a sexual manner. And the teen described her relationship with Fox to detectives as more of a father-daughter one. She also told detectives that he was a mentor to her.
It started off with just a very close relationship between a teen student and her yoga instructor. He made a few inappropriate comments.
Police say those escalated to several serious allegations against Fox.
Performed deviant sexual acts in the bedroom, such as urinating on her during intercourse. Is serving a prison sentence. His life has pretty much been destroyed here.
Candace Owens wants you to feel sorry for the convicted child molester who has 2 victims aged 12 to 15. That's who Candace Owens is.
That is insanity on full display right there, folks. That is the mind of Candace Owens.
She even later in the episode, because there's 5 grown men that were in relationships with this teenager. So even at one point, she's reading text messages between the teen minor and one of the grown men who's like 37. And they're discussing the fact that she's underage. So they're discussing the fact that, that he could get in trouble because he's with a minor. So Candace Owens is reading that out, them talking about it. Yet she's still maintaining this thing that these grown men were tricked into being in a relationship with a teen minor, and they had no clue that they were in a relationship with this teen minor. It really is crazy.
I actually had to go back and watch the full episode because I just wanted the full and it's worse than what you described, because there's multiple times where she describes these as young men. It's like 34 to 55 or something like that. That's the span of the age of these guys. And you're absolutely right. Like, your short video doesn't even capture how much she paints these men as the victim and the teenage girl as the perpetrator and predator of these men. It's unbelievable. And
yeah, and you can still find that video. I never linked to it because it is horrible what she does. And this, I should say that this girl, again, so just a reminder that she is one of the Tate brothers' alleged victims in their criminal cases in Romania. After this alleged victim testified to Romanian authorities, they then launched a defamation lawsuit against her, same as with me. And so she's been dragged through court since 2023. And she's still in court dealing with this defamation lawsuit. So I never linked to that episode because Candace Owens not only names the alleged victim, so that's the tricky thing for me making the video, because I don't want to show clips of Candace Owens naming this alleged victim. So that's why I've got to find ways to show that that's what she's doing. But she gets really personal in there. She talks about all sorts of really, really lurid, graphic, sexual things. And again, she expects you to feel sympathy for the grown men, some of them close to 60, who are in sexual relationships with a 15-year-old. She wants you to sympathize with them, not the 15-year-old. So that's when it worked. That's when it really it woke me up to Candace Owens is really capable of anything. And then flash forward to her attacking a grieving widow. Even I was surprised that she went there, but of course it didn't shock me after seeing her do this.
Yeah, and I found that original link. I'm just shocked that the Daily Wire even let that be published, to be honest with you. I don't know who was managing her or managing that, or what was going on behind that. But folks, like he said, she does name the minor multiple times. You need to be aware of that. But I do suggest that you go watch that, because you need to know exactly who you're dealing with. And she's constantly surrounding herself with these deviants, and it's a little bit nuts to me, because you see, number one, she's having Hunter Biden on. That either happened today or in the next couple of days. I know there was at least, I scanned through an episode today trying to see where she was talking about me and what she was saying exactly. I didn't get time, but I did see at least some portions of that. So now she's going to promote Hunter Biden, who is a known sex trafficker, a drug addict, a crackhead, the son of the absolute most corrupt president that has ever held office. The Biden, all these things that people complain about that now try to hang on the neck of Trump happened under the Biden administration, whether we're talking about January 6th, whether we're talking about the weaponization of the DOJ, you name it. Everything that has taken place that people are upset about, COVID restrictions, COVID requirements when it comes to being vaccinated, trying to use OSHA to force people to get vaccinated. Everything that people are upset about happened under his administration. Now she's just like Tucker did, as well as Sean Ryan, which was really wild for me to watch that whole thing. Have him on and paint him in a positive light, because that's what's going to happen. She's not going to ask any hard-hitting questions. I'd almost like to go back and maybe you've already done this, see what she has actually said about Hunter Biden in the past. Have you looked into that at all?
No, I mean, I'll do that today. But I have no doubt that that she would have came after him. It's the same thing as Harvey Weinstein. In the past, she was critical of not only Harvey Weinstein but Hollywood for being for defending him. And then cut to last year, and she's the full blown the one who's attempting to rehabilitate his image and push that he's innocent and he's the victim of something somehow, probably to do with Jews. No, time and again you see the people that she over and over again, the people that it is that thing though. It's beyond absurd how she tries to paint the world in these narratives that somehow she's like, I'm one of you, I'm out there in the world and times are tough, and it's because there's these sexually deviant elites who are controlling everything. They're pulling the strings and they're the reason that the times are tough. And meanwhile she's friends with someone that she's been aware of, based on her own words, that was a Romanian pimp that's subsequently been charged with horrific allegations, including trafficking and sex with a minor, and all these other people. And she's got a husband who looks very, very credibly like he was somehow managed to bury a DUI and a bunch of other things. I mean, if there ever is an elite who has power and is able to throw it around, it's absolutely Candace Owens.
And it's worth noting that her husband has been accused of sexual assault and sexual harassment by another man, no less. And another person that she hangs around with that actually happens to be in the Epstein files is John Mappin. John Mappin is in the Epstein files. And you talk about a Scientology freaking weirdo. He decided to show up in my comments, I don't know, a week ago, and I sent him a link. I'm like, hey, John, come on in, buddy. Here's a guest link. You got something to say? Let's talk it out. I mean, I know you're not going to believe that he didn't take me up on that offer, but he didn't. So
that he was in softcore porn as well, John Mappin.
Oh, I did not know that. I did not. Was that him trying to get closer to Lord Xenu? Like, how does that work in Scientology?
I don't know. So, maybe that's how he got into Scientology, was when he tried to be an actor. But you can find that. It is on pornography sites. So
I wonder how that works when you're grabbing the e-meter and you're trying to sort through all that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's Satan that he got rid of. It's just like, somebody said today, and it was the first time I heard this, but it's so true. I just reposted on X. They said something to the effect of, this season of the world or whatever, this season of reality is like nuts. And I think we do need to like replace the simulation theory with the reality TV theory. And like the producers are just screwing with us because it is wild to see what's happening. And the thing that disturbs me the most is how people have like abandoned like the most basic of logic, common sense, and rationale. Like we've turned justice on its head with this idea that we can just accuse people and they're guilty until they can prove their innocence. And the effect that like again, going back to like late November when I first became aware of what Candace was doing, because I wasn't paying attention to her until about mid to late November. And I saw what she was doing. I was like, man, this is a real problem. And I never imagined that this would get as big as it would. Truthfully, at first, I kind of thought that it was going to just kind of like people were going to come around and be like, okay, she's nuts. You know, the French Foreign Legion have this conspiracy, and the conspiracy is because, you know, Candace is on to Brigitte Macron. So now they got to go kill Charlie Kirk to distract her. And of course, we got to add one Jew assassin in there somewhere. So we got the Israeli assassin in there. And then, of course, I had already been hearing about like these tunnel theories, and come to find out like half these wild conspiracy theories were coming from Candace. And I was like, man, like you can't undermine society in this manner and no one pushed back on it. And I was surprised to see, I didn't really see anybody pushing back. The one person, and you may have already been doing it too, I'm not sure if I was familiar with your work at the time, but I was following Natalie Jean Beisner, and I saw something on her Instagram feed that made some allegations toward Candace. And at the time, I never followed Candace, but I had a positive impression of her. Like, okay, she's conservative, she's a black female, cool. So I was like, that can't be true what she's saying. So I went and watched the episode that Natalie referenced, and I was like, what in crazy pill world are we living in? And you know, that's when I was like, all right, like this just can't go on. But what do you think about? Do you think that a lot of this is just a perception that we have on social media, or do you feel like the effect that she's having and undermining societal norms is more real, I guess?
Yeah, I this is the thing. I mean, Candace Owens is a ludicrous figure. So yeah, in many ways, you shouldn't take Candace Owens seriously. You know, it's probably why I enjoy making videos about her, because she's just such a ridiculous figure.
Yeah.
You know, she's very good at manipulating people, but she's an absolute moron as well. So it's entertaining for me to be able to expose that. But the impact that she has, how large her audience is, and I have no doubt there's bots going on, you know, stuff like that. But
Sure.
I don't think people should underestimate how big her audience is and the impact that she's having, because I think that's very real, and I think that's absolutely the threat, and that's the thing that really needs to be pushed back on. And I think really when it comes down to it is about truth. This is what it's about. And unfortunately, in the social media age, truth isn't what gets engagement. It's not. Entertainment does. And you know, whatever is the most entertaining narrative is the thing that gets the most impressions. And, you know, I feel like that is the thing that's replaced truth. And I even see that with people who are critical of Candace. Even they fall for the same things, where they start to craft conspiracies and narratives and things based on nothing. And that's equally dangerous. The video that I'm most proud of, and I think was the most impactful, was after the Butler-Trump assassination attempt. I was the first person the day after that who actually crafted a real-time timeline of what happened. So I was the one who pulled together all the social media footage that was uploaded. And then I created a clock, and I pretty much just put together this timeline based on all that footage that was there, where I was able to sync up Trump's speech at that time with footage leading up to that. And I was able to show very clearly how long authorities were being warned about seeing crooks on the roof until how long it was that Trump was shot. And at that point in time, it was 2 minutes that authorities were made aware. And so I showed that video, and in real time, you see that the timer go as people are calling out to authorities, and you're just wondering, like, what is going on? Like, how did this happen? How is there this failure? And I'm very proud of that, because that video very clearly just showed there was this complete failure from the Secret Service, from the authorities. And, you know, that led to a lot of questions being asked, you know. But my point is that, you know, I'm the first person where if I see something that doesn't add up, that looks like it's, you know, that looks like it's that needs an explanation to it, I'm the first person to launch right into that. When it comes to the Charlie Kirk assassination, you know, I think when it comes to any assassination from now on, there's always going to be a second shooter. There's always going to be the military involved. There's always going to be a large conspiracy. And that's always going to get a lot of traction. Because most of the time, reality is fairly mundane. It's not that strange.
Yeah.
But that doesn't get clicks. That doesn't get engagement. What gets engagement is over-the-top narratives and things that spark your imagination.
Yeah, sensationalism is what sells. There's no doubt about it. And, you know, going back to exactly what you said, going back to Butler, you know, that's the first incident like this where I'd always covered politics. We'd always done like a little live stream on Wednesdays, a live podcast where we talked about other things other than guns, politics, current events, things like that. But when Butler happened, I basically jumped right into that. Coming from a sniper background, people wanted my opinion. I actually had a guy that that worked for me at the time that was a former Secret Service counter sniper team member. So I brought him on, and we just discussed what happened, what could have happened, what should have happened, what the failures were, all those things. And I agree with you. I think there is still a conspiracy around Butler. It's probably not what people think it is. And I think that is that the Biden administration fully understood the security risk of people essentially trying to kill Trump. And they denied resources that he should have had. And I think that's all it takes. And that's not that complicated. And I think that explains a lot. Now, I also have a lot of questions of what happened to Tyler Crooks prior to that. Like, how was he recruited? Was he radicalized online? Those are questions that we don't have answers to. But the problem, if you remember early days, in like the day to the next day, all of a sudden there was all these conspiracies even around that. There was multiple shooters. There was a shooter inside the AGR building that was shooting through solid glass, but we saw
water tower. There was the water tower with a figure there. Yeah,
water tower, which is the dumbest place a person could ever be if you know anything about long range shooting. But also you have to worry about, like, as a sniper, I would never get on the water tower. Like, you are seen from all over 360 degrees. The highest position is not the best position, folks. That's not what they teach you in sniper school. And it's just common sense if you think about it. And not only that, you have to get away. And it's really hard to get away to like climb down a water tower with your gun and all this stuff. Anyways, so the point here is that what happens with these conspiracies when they flood the zone, they distract everybody from the real problems. And I think that's intentional. And I saw that immediately with the Charlie Kirk assassination. Like, literally by that night, people were talking about, you know, this footage of Rick Cutler. He had a palm gun. The next thing we know, we went to camera gun. Well, there was 3 different camera guns. We had tunnels underneath Charlie. There was the Bushman shooter. There was multiple other places they said a shooter was. So, like, and that's what I did see that was odd right off the bat. Like, by day 2, I was just making some content saying, look, guys, it wasn't a palm gun, and here's why. We see no muzzle flash. The energy transfer that we see with Charlie Kirk, that's not a 30 caliber pistol, right? That is a high power rifle. Like, we see a ton of energy transferred to Charlie. And just by saying those things, the next thing I know, I'm flooded down in the comments. You're a Fed, you're paid by Israel. I'm like, Israel? Like, Israel hadn't even been mentioned yet. I'm like, oh, do I have a menorah behind me? Like, what's like, it was just like this flood of weird disinformation. And I was like, man, there's something weird going on with this. And then, of course, the next thing you know, we have this narrative of Israel killed Charlie and French Foreign Legion. And by then, everybody has been convinced of so much BS that they can't accept any sort of facts. Instead of people sitting back and saying, hey, let's just objectively sit back and see where all this stuff, kind of the facts fall. You know, and of course it's like, oh my God, it took them 33 hours to catch them. Oh, Freemasons are involved, or some, I don't know, some codec that's involved with 33. Like, they latch on to everything, and it's just to confuse. And obviously some of these people really believe it, which, you know, they're confused on their own. But yeah, like, this disinformation causes some real problems. And it undermines the truth, and that's part of this. And luckily, you know, you have an audience, I have an audience. I'd rather have whatever the numbers we have at audience. I'd rather that of sane, logical people than 10 million Candace followers. You know, quality over quantity anytime. Real quick, let me jump in here and just take a few of these super chats and some questions. MilkBar completes my day. He completes everybody's day. You got
Thank you very much.
your daily allowance, recommended daily allowance of MilkBar TV. Nathan is undefeated with edits. We got Edie in the house. Cindy, thank you. She gifted 5 Paramount Tactical memberships. Defamation suit. She showed a DOD contract of yours for gear and said you're getting paid to spread misinformation. Look, we're going to explore that, and remind me, just for the sake of the audience, I will happily explain this contract that we got. And I think most of you with common sense will see that nothing is weird here at all. And it's like, I know 190,000 sounds like, well, you know what, I'll explain it in depth in just a little bit for the sake of our audience, not to explain to these whack jobs. Nate has some amazing videos showing direct contradictions from Candace's own mouth. If you haven't, definitely check him out. YouTube, MilkBar TV. Absolutely. We do have all of his socials down there. I want to make sure that we get his Gifts and Go account up there so that we can get him as much support as possible as well. Gary, I adore you and your work. I'm out there reposting your ex every day. Fight, fight, fight. Thank you, Cindy. Look, that is one of the biggest things that you guys can do. And again, I appreciate you guys liking, subscribing, commenting. I super appreciate you guys showing up every single day. I appreciate super chats, becoming members, and all those other things. One of the most powerful things that you can do, both with my content and with Nate's, is definitely sharing that content. That goes a long way. Whether it's on X, whether it's, you know, getting the share link from YouTube and posting on your other socials, whatever it is. And again, I'll tell you right now, anybody that is any of my content with Candace Owens, you feel free to cut that stuff up and make it your own. I couldn't care less. I really couldn't. It's just too important. Nathan is fantastic. I agree. Gary, I believe you. I'm going to make it my life's mission to expose you as the patriotic truth seeker you are. Great show and guest. Well, thank you, Don. We appreciate that. And Nathan, I keep calling you Nate. Do you go by Nathan or Nate? Do you have any, like,
It's all good.
does it offend you if I call you Nate? My brother's name is Nathaniel, and I always call him Nate. I'll call you whatever you prefer, buddy. I don't want to disrespect the MilkBar TV. You have literally become part of her content. She'd have nothing left to say if people just ignored her. I agree. Because Christians are required to call out evil. And that was one of the things I put 3 Bible verses on that. Like, if you're a Christian, you do not have the option of sitting out. When you see evil, when you see lies being perpetrated and perpetuated, like, you have a responsibility to call it out in your own way. Please ask him to do reels about Nick Fuentes and his flip-flopping. He's far more dangerous for young men. The right influencers always excuse him. I was going to bring this up earlier when you were talking about about Andrew Tate. Tate and Fuentes, there's a lot of overlap there in what they do, what they say, in their audience, I'm sure. Because I agree with you. There was a time when I was kind of like soft following Andrew Tate because I'd hear some clips about masculinity, essentially. And I'm all in. I'm like, oh, man, this guy's great. This guy's great.
Yeah.
I had no idea about his background or anything else. He said some things that made sense to me, and I was like, oh, I really like that guy. And I brought him up to my wife. My wife was like, Gary, that guy's a dirtbag. I'm like, what are you talking about? I was like, what are you turned it into some feminazi on me? So I was like, all right, well, let me go look this up. And that's when I did come across some of the videos. And there's clips. Most of that stuff that you're referencing was actually behind paywalls. So for people that don't know, like, he was essentially, he would let men and young boys and young men buy these systems to like create business, to get girls. And that's what he was doing. He was teaching psychological manipulation tactics. And then he was teaching people how to start porn businesses, just like Nathan said. So, you know, once I saw that, I was like, my gosh, you know, I didn't tell my wife she was right because I wasn't going to give her that, but she was right. We'll keep that between us. No wonder she's platforming Hunter Biden now. Then she loves boosting toxic men. She does. And we're going to come back to Nick Fuentes because I would like to hear your thoughts on that. It was crazy to watch her try to attach Erica to sex trafficking in Romania when her husband's best friend is literally a sex trafficker in Romania. That's right. Like, it wasn't enough to attempt to say that Erica Kirk, TPUSA, and all these other people were involved in, had foreknowledge, and essentially killed Charlie Kirk. That wasn't enough. They had to go and turn TPUSA and Erica Kirk into these child sex traffickers. For that, like,
my favorite thing with that is that where's that gone? Like, where's that thread gone? You know, same thing with like the assassination attempt against her. Same thing with Charlie Kirk being a time traveler. It's just like, oh, we're just not gonna, you know, TPUSA is sex traffickers. Oh, never mind. Let's move on to, you know.
See, that's the
Erica
problem.
Kirk is using AI, Charlie Kirk audio. That's far more interesting than whether TPUSA is, you know, a cabal of sex traffickers.
Well, I think it's like, that's the drive-by, right? So it's just like a quick hit. They don't, if you bring this back up, what she's done essentially is she's established that as fact on her side of it.
That's right.
It's not because if you bring, like, we're not talking about it because it's idiotic for us to sit down there in the comments and fight this out. Like, no, Erica Kirk wasn't a sex trafficker. Yes, she was. Candace proved it. She showed receipts. Like, so like the problem with that is she has essentially just established that as fact. That is as factual as the earth is round and gravity exists. And now we're just moving on to something else. Oh, and by the way, there's these text messages that prove that that Erica Kirk, you know, had this girl where she was grooming her, right?
But this is why you've been so effective, because she attempted to do the same thing with Mitch Snow.
Yeah,
you know, she attempted to do the same thing with Mitch Snow. But you were great because you were like, these are massive accusations you're making. So I'm going to take these accusations very seriously and let's dig into them. Let's dig into Mitch Snow. And so you did a great job of unpacking all of that and just showing that, you know, it was beyond irresponsible for her to even have someone like Mitch Snow on her show, let alone for her to endorse what he was saying. And I think that's largely why now, you know, she's got this defamation lawsuit and there's so much heat. Because in the past, she could do that. Like you said, she could do a drive-by like that and the audience would just take that as word. But she's got to that place now where she's got big enough that now there's more heat on her. And so now she's getting more coverage and more scrutiny from people like you and others. And I love to see that because I felt like it was me and, you know, only a few others who were covering her in the past with the Macrons and such. So it's great now that it's like, oh, you want to make these accusations? All right, well, are you going to back them or are you not? And she tries to back out of them now. It's like, you can't, you know, you can't. Like you did what you did in the past and the internet doesn't forget. So
you know, you bring up a great point on this, and I'm not going to take all the credit because there was other people out there, but we did. Number one, we got Mitch on the phone. We did a lot to hold her to task on that, and it wasn't. In you know, thinking back now, as you're saying that, this is the first time I thought about this. So much of what is being used against her in the lawsuit, the comments and things, weren't what she said during the show. It was in her X space and other shows that she had to go on and basically defend against things that I said and other people have said as well.
Yep.
It was taking her to task that forced her to actually make additional mistakes that are going to be used against her now. So just like you said, for these people that I hear it all the time, like starve the grift, it is the dumbest thing like, where else do we apply that standard? If you're a conservative, do we starve the grift of the left by just not responding to their policies or their lies? We just let them be. No, that's how you grow the grift. You don't starve the grift. You're going to grow the grift. How we starve the grift is actually taking them to task on every little thing and making them defend every piece of that. Any little bit that they say that's a lie, you say, no, it's not. And it's the pushback that starves and kills and destroys the grift. It's not your silence. It's not your, being passive about this. It's you attacking them. And then they go on and they try to defend it, especially when you have a malignant narcissist like Candace Owens. She can't be wrong. Like, she had an opportunity there, was like, you know what? I think Mitch Snow got me on this one. And she could have just distanced herself away. And I genuinely would have been like, you know what? Good call, Candace. Good call. Like, I understand that she doesn't know anything about the military. I get it. But she can't even accept that. She has to go on and say, oh, these vet bros were threatening me. No, we were warning you, you dumb broad. Like, we were trying to tell you that you're being tricked. And, she went on.
Yeah, but I think that's the thing. It's like, Candace Owens is incapable of saying when she's wrong.
No,
100%. She's incapable of saying, well, that's my bad. I was way off. I need to issue a correction and some apologies for the people that I wrongly accused. She can't do it. So by you then putting that pressure on her, she then has to make that decision. Do I double down or do I have to bail on this? And she knows that she can't bail, because that's part of the thing. Is like, her audience is her worst enemy in many ways.
Yeah.
I feel like even now it's like, you see that. I feel like even her, it's like she knows the Erica Kirk stuff is good for clicks. She knows it's great for clicks, but it's also like, man, this is a minefield of lawsuits that you are having to try and step around, and you are stepping on these mines. And it's because her audience is egging her on. They're like, we want more, we want more.
Rapid against her as she is against everybody else. And I mean, do you remember I don't know if you watched, I watched it. Her reaction video, or basically her next video right after she got done meeting with Erica Kirk. And she came on there and she's like, look, I'm just telling you all right now, it was a 30-06. It did hit him in the neck. The surgeon said it was she actually said like fragmenting bullet, a frangible bullet, regardless. But she went on there and basically just confirmed the Fed slop and was like, hey, but here's the other issues. And man, her audience turned on her. And the very next day she was back at it. Like, she came back against Erica Kirk. She doubled down on everything. But you're right. If you got a choice between Candace Owens admitting she was wrong or doubling down, man, that is a solid bet every single time. You can win money on that. You will never lose if you go with double down.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. A huge shout out to all the patriotic ladies in the chat every show. Gary and team, you are making a huge difference. Hats off to you. Thank you guys. And yeah, like we have a big female audience, and I appreciate that very much. We got a lot of dudes in the audience too, and we appreciate you. I love it. I just love being around sane Americans. I mean, it's just a nice place to be. Just want to say thanks, and sane Australia.
Yeah.
I think Gary just froze.
Did he freeze?
I think so. Yeah, he'll drop and come back in.
Oh, that's good. I'm used to it being me.
Oh, no, I still see you. I think the chat, you guys still see us, right? Gary should be back in just a second. So I have been putting the link in the chat, and I've also been posting it on the net too. So, oh, there's Gary. Okay, his power just went out. He'll be right back.
No worries.
I think they're having a pretty bad storm.
Unfortunately, I know nothing about guns or anything, so I can't vamp.
So when did you start doing all of this? Just back around COVID?
MilkBar TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, MilkBar TV. It started. I think it literally started the week after I was fired because of vaccine mandates.
Oh.
So that's pretty much when I joined Twitter and started making satirical videos. And I think I had 2 accounts that were taken down. And I think the first 2 were under my name, and the third one was MilkBar TV. So it's coming on. What is it? 2026. So yeah, it's coming on about a bit over 4 years. Oh, that's right. No, it was my 4th anniversary on Twitter last month.
Oh, congratulations and happy anniversary.
Yeah, thank you. But I'm so relieved that there's people like Gary now, and you with the show, who are now covering Candace Owens. Because there was a point in time where I was watching every episode of Candace for a period of time last year, especially. And now I've eased up. Now I don't actually watch her that often, just because there's so many great people like Gary who are doing excellent work covering her. I kind of ease up on the gas and start to explore other topics and people. So I am very grateful of that, because watching a lot of Candace does take its toll.
Yeah, I became extremely angry, and then I found Jay Witt and Gary, so I started watching their watch parties so that I didn't have to suffer through her wretched voice by myself.
Yeah.
So, I think Gary's back.
I'm back. Gary's back.
Gary's back.
My power went out.
So, yeah, that's how I found Gary, and then we just started working together. So it was pretty cool. So I'm gonna jump back out so you guys can finish your conversation.
Well, Jen, you jump back in anytime you got something to add to it. Feel free. We always enjoy your commentary as well.
All right, thank
you. Let me see. Anyways, all right. Just want to say thanks to both of you for such consistent work to reveal truth against evil, dark efforts to cover it. You're both your integrity and seeking the truth is highly appreciated. Yeah, folks, sorry, I had to boot everything up. So it's wild and wonderful West Virginia down here, y'all. You'll never know what's going on there. Let's see here. All right. Let me see where we're at on this. See if I missed any. Candace blocked me the day I debunked her Jillian Falcon narrative with old tweets from Jill's account. I don't know who Jillian Falcon is. Do you know who that is, Nathan?
No, I'm not sure.
Jillian Falcon narrative. Not sure who that it was. Nathan, I thumbs up all your videos on YouTube and IG. Can't imagine the hours of footage you have to watch to put them together. They're so effective. That is one thing that people don't realize is like the time that goes into all this stuff, which is why definitely some of my content that people have ripped off. And then I know, especially with your content, because your content gets ripped off all the time. It can be frustrating to understand like how much time goes into that. It might be a 3-minute video, but you put, sometimes like literally 12 hours into some of that with all the research, clipping videos, finding the clips, all that stuff. It's a lot of work that goes into that.
Yeah, that is my advice. If you do want to, I don't know, be a successful video editor, work hard, because there's not actually that many people who are really working their asses off. There's a great Maze Moore. Maze Moore is an excellent video editor on Twitter. He does really, really great stuff. And he's on the MAGA side of things, but excellent editor, great researcher. I shamelessly, I'll admit, I've stolen ideas from him.
Fair enough. No, I mean, ideas are one thing. And again, I've like, all right, I need to get this as concise as possible. What would Nathan Livingstone do? And, so
cut out fat, cut out all the fat. I see that with videos all the time where I'm like, cut out the fat. Don't cut out context, but cut out fat,
Yep.
Make your video about one thing, one idea, and just communicate it as effectively as you can.
I will keep that in mind. I don't know if I'll be able to do it always, but I've definitely gotten a lot better at it. And again, a lot of that is because of you. And it kind of threw me off just a little bit. You know what? One of the things that just for the sake of, I saw it come up a couple times, and I want people to know about this. And again, the only responsibility I have is to my viewers, and I don't mind talking about it whatsoever. And that is this new trope that she's putting out. And again, this just disinformation that I got this $190,000 contract. I think it went through like September 25th or something like that. Folks, if you know anything about contracts, number one, we're certified as a small disabled owned veteran business. So I could go out and get contracts all the time. We're essentially a mom and pop. I have, as far as the retail side of this goes, and definitely this goes, like Jen is my only assistant with everything we do on the social media side. My wife pretty much runs the shop. We got some part-time help that does that for order fulfillment and things along those lines. And then I have some instructors that help with our actual courses. So the facility that we're on, it is a training, it's 800-acre training facility, and there are government agencies that work there. We have no affiliation with them. We literally rent the building, and we use the facility for our own training. We had an Army unit that was training there for a while that came in, and they were saying that they needed equipment. And quite frankly, I thought this was going to be like, okay, I'm just going to sell you guys. They needed some nods, night vision devices, and a few other things. And they were like, hey, we'd like to help you guys out, but you're going to have to go through. Ultimately, it came down to, hey, you are going to have to go through a bidding process. I'm like, all right, we'll do this. And let my wife handle all this. Folks, this started in like June. Like, if we'd have known what the pain of this whole process was going to be, I wouldn't have done it. And then on top of that, now we're going up against bidders. We had to cut the profit down to so much. It literally wasn't worth the time. And we decided, like, the companies that do this have like these procurement and like they have whole offices that work on bidding for, government contracts. But we decided that we're going to do this, and we thought it'd be interesting. We thought at the beginning of this wouldn't be that hard. Folks, it was months worth of work. We had to there was a bunch of different requirements. They needed cases for all these. We had to buy cases. We had to cut the foam out of these cases, get them. Like, it was more work than it was worth. Folks, we do $190,000 a week on most weeks or more on full retail. So like, it ended up being such low profit margins. Both my wife and I were like, we're not doing this again. And that's where it was. And I don't care if it was, and by the way, like, I don't care if it was $190,000 cash they handed to us, like, and it was a profit. That would still never change anything that I was going to, I would say to you. It just wouldn't. There's no amount of money that could get me to say one thing different than what I believe. I just, again, I mean, I don't know how to put it in words without it sounding hyperbolic. But just trust me, like, there's no amount of money. Like, it would literally take somebody having a firearm to my a loved one's head. Because even if they had it to my head, it was like, hey, if you don't say this, like, I still wouldn't say that. I just wouldn't. I'm just telling you that right now. I mean, I think that would be I would see that as being a traitor to my country. That's how it's the same level. It's never going to happen. So anyways, that's what happened. That started months before that bid was done with. And it had nothing to do with this. And for them to pull that up and try to use that against me and try to prove that I'm some sort of paid off person, it is the most ridiculous thing. We sell that stuff all the time. It's nothing different than what we normally do. And the juice wasn't worth the squeeze, and it definitely isn't now. So that's the story on that. If you have additional questions on that while we're here, I'll cover it here. I'm not covering it again.
Is that the best that they've come up with to try and discredit you?
This is the third narrative. The first narrative was that I completely debunked today. And I have in the past, that Andrew Colvett actually organized and engineered this whole thing about the alibi with Erica Kirk. I reached out to Andrew Colvett.
So I've seen the screenshots. You did what some would call investigative reporting. That's kind of foreign to Candace Owens in a sense.
So there was that, and then what was said, the next false narrative that Barron and Candace, and I do think that Barron is behind it. You talk about someone engineering narratives. I think Barron is behind most of this. He was the first one that came out. He wasn't the first one, but he was the first one that came out big on this DoD contract thing. And then she just happened to subsequently air it again today. The other big one was that I said that Mitch Snow wasn't at Fort Huachuca, and then I confirmed it. I debunked myself with Mitch Snow's son. The hilarious thing about that is, number one, I always said that I thought that Mitch Snow was there, and I've proven that that was a lie. But now what they're saying, I don't know if you saw Stu Peters and a bunch of these other clowns, they're now saying that the Mitch Snow's son that I had on was an actor. That's not even Mitch Snow. Mitch Snow is saying that that's not his son at all. His son contacted me. I ended up getting the hold of Linda Dowler, which was Mitch Snow's first ex-wife. And she has a son, Connor, and then they have a daughter. And I'm not going to say her name because her daughter, when I talked, she was actually, the daughter was the first person as I was going through. And folks, I just did a background check. It was Experian. You can do the same thing on TruthFinder, whatever else. All these people that were associated with this person, I found the names. I did a background check on them. I found their names and number, and I just started calling numbers. And that's exactly how I got a hold of Mitch Snow's number too, folks. Just basic, all the tools that you guys have available to you, I use, and I just started calling numbers. And next thing I know, some guy answers the phone, was like, is this Mitch Snow? Yeah, who's this? And then a conversation ensued. So those were the first two false narratives. Now they're saying that Mitch Snow's son was an actor that came on. I mean, this is how much they're coping with all this. And then now they're saying that, I'm paid off. And the crazy thing is, the insinuation of this is that I was like, I'm in the conspiracy, which I never, like, I'm part of the cover up now. I've been kind of dovetailed into this, and I will be looking at if that's what's being said, and it is, but I need to see what the verbiage they're using. Folks, I'm not going to stand for that. We're going to see what actions. We'll see. Look, defamation cases are very difficult, and I know a lot of people, including myself, there's things being said like, oh, that has to be clear defamation. And you talk to a lawyer and they're like, yeah, I don't feel that strong about it. And folks, even if I had a clear-cut defamation case, something that was stronger than even what Brian Harpole has, for instance, because he's going to win that case. But let's say I had a stronger case than them. Talking to lawyers, that is going to be 3 or 4 years, very easily a couple $100,000 that I have to pony up. And then you don't know if you're going to win it or not. So that is the risk that you're taking. And it's easy to say, because I've been there, like, just sue them, you'll win. Like, yeah, okay. In the meantime, you're going to have to remortgage your house because I don't have the feds paying my bills. Israel's not dropping off $7,000 checks, unfortunately. So TPUSA doesn't pay me, unfortunately. I don't have all this extra money. So our small business is what supports all of this, folks. So if you want to support us, that's another thing. If you put a .com at the end of this channel name, you can go there and you can get all the gear and stuff, and that'll help support us as well. But so that's what's going on with what they have, and that's it. And
well, I'll tell you what, even last week, I dropped that Candace mispronunciation compilation with butchering words, and just the timing of that. I happened to post that before her interview with the Putin puppet, the Georgian model Elizabeth Lane. So just the timing of that, I think that stole some of the thunder. So Candace was not happy about that. So even she posted that there was, this conspiracy to try and make her look bad by people, bringing up how she can't pronounce words, which, again, it's just like, I'm in Australia, just in my little spare room, putting these things out. There's no massive conspiracy, but that is the best way, because I've spoken to a lot of people throughout the years who she's done exactly the same thing. She's come for, and attacked, and all of them have been innocent of what she's accused them of. But that is the best way to realize just how full of crap Candace is to be a target of her attack, because then you realize like you are the subject. There is no better expert than you, and you realize like, oh, okay, I can see clearly how she's lying about all of this.
Well, you're 100% right, and that's one of the things I highlighted in the video is like all you've done with all this, Candace, is confirm what I knew, but now I see it firsthand, that you're willing to lie, that you're willing to smear people, that you're willing to attempt to destroy people's lives because they're exposing your lives. Like, there is no depth that she will not go, and all that does is harden my resolve. And I see it firsthand. I now have firsthand experience of exactly what you're doing and how corrupt person. And it's funny, I was thinking about this. I think I posted it somewhere, but now Baron Coleman and Candace Owens, they are literally the social media version of Hillary Clinton and Sidney Blumenthal. And if you guys don't know who Sidney Blumenthal is, like, he was her attack dog. He was the engineer behind all of her when she was doing people, because they were coming after her. Like, they are the same people. Very, very similar. Sidney Blumenthal was also a corrupt lawyer, just like old Baron Coleman that lost to Pam Bondi because he was arguing. You heard about the story that he lost to Pam Bondi, right?
No.
Oh, it's hilarious. I actually have this up. Might as well. For people that haven't seen this, it's worth checking out. So this is the state VDC. Let me throw this up. All right, so here's the case. And I'll happily send this to you or anybody else that wants this. So basically, the state appeals the trial court's order dismissing the information filed against the defendant, determining that the information sufficiently alleges unlawful sexual intercourse by a person knowingly infected with HIV. All right, so this is what it was a gay man charged with HIV, having intercourse while knowingly infected with HIV. Barron was representing this person. And what he did, he filed to dismiss based on, let me see if I can find this. Basically based on the fact, his argument was that intercourse is only between Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. So the court actually had to bust out some definitions. Let me bring this down here. Notably, our research did not disclose any dictionary definition of limited sexual intercourse to heterosexual vaginal intercourse, and the additional online directory cited the defendant do not limit the definition. So in ruling, we reject the defendant's contention that the statute's plain and ordinary meaning is limited to heterosexual vaginal intercourse. Such an interpretation would lead to a result clearly contrary to legislative intent. That was his argument in this case, and he was going up against Pam Bondi. He lost and was basically laughed out of court. Pam Bondi, Attorney General, against George Barron Coleman of Hubbard Coleman, P.C. Montgomery. He also lost the defamation case that he was representing Gavin McInnes against the Southern Poverty Law Center. So he doesn't have a track record. I can't find a case that he has actually won. But so that's why he's turned from lawyering. First, he was a talk show host in Birmingham, Alabama, and now he's become a grifter on YouTube. So that is the thing. It was similar with Andrew Tate as well, where over time, all the sane, moral people have abandoned ship. The clearer the character of the person has become,
And it was, it was a little bit terrifying after Charlie Kirk's assassination that people were taking Candace Owens seriously.
Yeah.
Because of her history with Charlie Kirk and TPUSA. That lent her credibility for a time. And that was terrifying for me, because literally weeks before that, I was, doing videos showing how she was attempting to prove that Brigitte Macron was a man who was part of the Stanford prison experiment in 1971. Like, just crazy out there shit. And then cut to like a couple of weeks later and people are taking Candace Owens seriously. But that's where it's like, now I think the people around her, they're just the critters. They're just the the people who are, you really don't want anything to do with. Even the Megyn Kellys, they're silent, largely. But they definitely should be called out. But yeah, the Baron Colemans, I don't know where these people crawl out from under these rocks. Yeah.
There's something I was going to say. I lost it. Oh, well, no, I know what to say. It's even more terrifying now, because now we have so much more evidence about what actually took place, between the new search warrants, and they tracked Tyler Robinson all over the campus. They know exactly what he did afterwards based on cell phone location data, based on his cell phone, additional text messages that we now know of. Like, this is the most, there's no holes in any of the information. Like, I've never seen a case, and I'm not like some true crime expert, but I've also talked to Gray Hughes Investigates, and he said the same thing, and he follows all these cases. He's like, and he's shared it with our viewers. It's like, I've never seen a case that has more evidence that makes it more clear of who the perpetrator of all this is, how, what, when, where, and why. Like, we have all of those. We have confessions after confessions on multiple platforms. We have the fact that his parents turned him in. We have DNA evidence. We have DNA evidence on the spent cartridge. We have motive. We have admission after admission. Like, it's crazy that there are still people pushing things like the exploding microphone theory, and all these things that just defy physics and common sense. But they've dug their heels in, and at this point, it's a religion. Like, they're believing it without. It's such a faith that they're believing it without evidence, right? And that is the definition of a religion.
But this is the conspiracy theorist thing, is that you lay out, oh, here's all the proof, and to them that proves conspiracy, right? Because they say, look, see, it was all planned. It's all been put together. So it's like, more evidence proves a conspiracy. Less evidence proves a conspiracy. Like, all of it. That's the thing. It's like the government, the military, the Macrons, the Jews, they can somehow, do all of this, rope in Tyler Robinson's family, the defense, all of it with UVU, calculate this whole thing, but they used the wrong bullet. Damn it. They used the wrong bullet. That was the one thing that they didn't think through. So now the sleuths have got them. There's always the breadcrumbs that somehow they can calculate all of this. It's a international plot, but they just forget to use the wrong gosh darn bullet. And this is the thing that it shows, like, it's only going to heat up as we get towards a trial. And I think that's where it's important to point out just the complete lack of consistency. There is no consistency when it comes to this kind of thing, because someone like Candace Owens will tell you for months that, this is all a Fed operation, top down. You can't trust anyone. You can't even trust Tyler Robinson's defense team. You can't trust the courts. All of them are corrupt, They're all bought and paid for and working towards whatever malevolent scheme. But then when the bullet doesn't match the gun because it's too fragmented, they say, look, see, that proves it. It's like, oh, okay, so now that evidence is legitimate. So now the courts do work. So now Tyler Robinson's defense team is working for him. It's like, oh, okay, that's, so you can cherry pick that. But, so anytime it moves towards them, it's like, it's valid. Anytime it moves against, conspiracy.
Well, it's like all this evidence is fed slop. It's all fabricated. But when the bullet fragments can't be matched definitively to the gun, see, that's proof. Like that, all of a sudden, that fed slop is golden and it's good to go. The again, it just requires cognitive dissonance. And here's the thing: it's like out of all the things that they could have faked and could have just said, like if they faked all of these things, why wouldn't they have just said, "Yep, the bullet matches, case closed"? But no, that was the one thing that they couldn't fabricate, I guess. They wanted to. And that's the thing. It's like at this point, what they want you to believe is there's multiple state and federal agencies involved in this conspiracy, hundreds of people, hundreds of law enforcement officers. Not one of them is willing to come out and say, there's no leaks in any of this stuff. The family, I guess, is involved. The prosecution's involved. Like, it is so big that it would just collapse on itself if you want to believe this. That's what it is. This is a great question. Do you think there is a connection between Candace, Tucker, and Meghan all seeming to flip the script around the same time? I just find it weird. You answer that, Nathan.
I think Meghan and Candace are chasing engagement. I think they're pure grifters. Meghan's not as bad as Candace, and that's why she's so late to the party. But she feels like she can sense the way that the wind's going, so she's hopped on the bandwagon.
I think she's trying to straddle the fence. She's not trying to go full retard, while at the same time trying not to say something that's going to make her lose subscribers, because there is a ton of overlap between
which isn't going to work.
Yeah,
it's not going to work. You've got to be a true believer. It's the same thing with her becoming more critical on Israel. It's like either you're all in or you're not. You've got to join one side or the other. It's not going to work straddling the fence. Tucker, I think, is Tucker. Look, no one knows what the hell's going on with Tucker. I still haven't heard a good explanation for how he's had such just a hardcore 180 on seemingly all his beliefs. I don't know what's going on with Tucker, but he's a true believer. But he's all in on this, Alexander Dugin multipolarity. America has to secede power to China, Iran. That Islam is equal to Christianity because secularism and liberalism is the true evil that needs to be defeated. It's out there stuff, but he's all on board. He's all on board with it. So in some ways, he's the most dangerous, I think, because he's completely bought into this stuff. He's completely bought into it, and because he's more connected to people in government and people in power than I think Candace or Meghan, and has more influence. I think that's started to dip more with the Trump side of things, but it's still there. He's still largely influential.
Yeah, I've said this before. I think trying to determine people's motivations, I think, is an exercise of futility, but we all love to do it. But here's my theory on Tucker, and you tell me what you think. I think for the first time, Tucker isn't grifting. I think when we saw him for the last 20 years on Fox News and other places where he is a conservative commentator, he knew what to say to get the followers that he needed. I think Tucker's reached a point now. He has his own network. He's making millions of dollars selling nicotine pouches. He's kind of his own man. He is, for the first time, I don't think is driven by money, fame, or success. And now we see the real Tucker. This is who he really is. This is the globalist. This is, this, I don't even know what box to put him in. There's he's definitely pro-Islam. I don't know, but I think for the first time we're seeing the real Tucker. That's my thought on that.
I think my thing with Tucker is that you watch him in interviews, whether it's his own that he's giving with someone else or the one that he's the guest on. I think in my mind, he's ceased to be a journalist or a reporter. You know, he speaks like a politician. He lies like a politician. And he gives these long monologues like he's sermonizing.
He's always selling.
You know, he flies on private jets to go give an interview to Mike Huckabee, and then lies about, you know, being harassed at the security. What journalist flies like, you know, a private jet to get, you know, he's meeting with these world leaders in the Gulf states. This is where it's like, this guy he's not a journalist, he's not a reporter, and that's why he is.
I don't even think he would call himself a journalist. I don't know how he would describe himself, but I don't think that's what he would call himself. But no, I agree. I mean, regardless, again, I don't care what his motivation is. I don't care what the motivation of Candace is. I don't care who's behind the scenes paying these people. Couldn't care less. What I do know is that what I can see the trajectory of their words and actions, and that trajectory is undermining America. It is undermining truth, decency, common sense, rule of law, our justice system. That's what I see. And it is conditioning people to believe utter BS. And what's going to happen is, I don't think this whole thing started off as a psyop. I think with Candace, where this started was just Candace being the spiteful, malignant narcissist that she is, and saw this as an opportunity to get back in an organization that she hated. But what I do believe is that it's very easy from outside our political adversaries and our foreign adversaries to identify something that's useful. And I do think there are bots, and I think it's probably around 20 or 30%. But I do think there is an artificial boost of her. And then what happens is, and the way this works, we have all these countries, whether it's about China, Russia, Iran, Pakistan, and Europe, all these people. They don't have the ballistic capabilities that we do. What's much easier to destroy America is to spend a couple $1 million creating bot farms that when you see a creator say something, put out a video, a message that they like, they will artificially boost that. And then what happens with that is that automatically incentivizes that creator. We look at analytics. I actually don't. Like, the only thing I'll look at is like, oh, did that video do well or not? Because I'm not going to change my content or try to formulate my content for views. I just don't. But, you know, there's a lot of people that do. And it's like, oh, I said this thing and I got 1 million views. I'm going to make another video like that. So now they're getting paid indirectly. They're pushing a message that somebody else wants them to push. It looks very organic, and it will look. Let's say someone does a video that was going to get 100,000 views. If they could push this and make this, and they push a bunch of bots in this direction, and now it gets 300,000 or 400,000. Now it's going to get picked up by the algorithm, and it's going to, that artificial boost is going to push it into the algorithm. And the algorithm is not going to push this because the algorithm. Does everybody see what I'm saying here? It looks. Is very. It's very sinister, and it's very sneaky. But then on top of that, once the algorithm does push it, now it is going to get. It's going to reach more people, which means it's going to bring. You know, let's say 1 out of 10,000 people, whatever the number is, whatever the turnover rate is, you know, they're going to get that many subscribers that believe that thing. And now they're going to get those people down in the comments that are affirming what this person says. And this all started from an outside boost by political and or foreign adversaries. So this is not hard to manipulate. The United States isn't doing this. This is 5th generational warfare. It is devious because it is so effective, so easy.
I'm glad you touched on this because people comment all the time. You know, they point out that I'm Australian, you know. Yeah. And they look at me like, you know, because there are grifters who will only talk about American politics or stuff like that. I don't talk about American politics. You know, I don't get involved in that. I talk about media figures that have massive impact in my country and on the West. And you know, that's the thing. If you come to Australia, you understand it's a massive country, but we have a tiny population. And we have little to no media, and all of it is largely government funded. So largely our media is government funded, and we have a tiny, tiny conservative right wing amount of media in our country, because most of it's government funded, and our government is left wing, including the bureaucrats. So figures like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, even Megyn Kelly, have a massive, massive cultural impact in Australia. And, you know, like you're saying, you look at Iran state TV is blasting Tucker Carlson. They're blasting Candace Owens. You know, Australia, we had attacks on temples that was funded by the Iranian Islamic State. That's not a conspiracy. That's a fact. That led to prosecutions, and we ended up kicking out Iranian ambassadors because of that. You know, just last December, we had the largest terrorism attack in our country's history, with Bondi terrorist attack, where, you know, Islamists killed, it was 15 Jewish people. They targeted a Jewish holiday event, including a 10-year-old girl. The next day, Buckley Carlson is pushing that was a Zionist op. This is all connected. So you're right. This is absolutely an attack on the West, and these alternative media figures. It doesn't take long at all to be able to connect the dots to these international connections that are doing everything they possibly can to dismantle the West. And that, on that grander scheme, that is the fight. That is the fight that needs to be taken up.
I have noticed, and again, I'm always very careful, try not to let my perceptions online cloud what I think is happening in reality. But man, there seems to be, based on what I see online, just about every Australian account, and some of these could be bot accounts or whatever else, I don't know. But there seems to be a very strong anti-Semitic push in Australia. Is that based in reality, or is that just something that I'm perceiving online?
No, we've got a lot of problems in this country. Mm-hmm. A lot of problems. Our country has taken a real big turn towards the left. And with that, like with a lot of places in the West, there's a real reckoning, especially around the subject of immigration. There's a real question of immigration, and there's a real question of what is the national identity of Australia? What does it mean to be Australian? And like with the UK, even America, there's been this large embrace about the idea of multiculturalism, and that's our identity. And I think now there's a reckoning of, is multiculturalism actually good? Or is what's happening is it's diluting the primary culture, the national identity. So with that, now we're seeing in Australia this rise of One Nation Party, which is a right-wing party. So our Conservative Party, the equivalent of the Republican Party, has been a complete and absolute failure. They drifted so far towards the left now that they don't even represent any conservative values, let alone their own, that they've still got on their website. So with that now, this minor party, the smaller party, has come into prominence. Now, this One Nation Party is not racist in any way whatsoever, but I'm just pointing that this is the direction that's going now with this backlash. And with that, you've got a lot of people who are pushing that Australia should be a white ethno state. And I think you see a lot of that on X because there is a large amount of censorship in Australia. There's a lot of censorship. I don't like censorship, I am not a white supremacist. I do not think that to be Australian means to be white. I think that it has a strong Anglo-Saxon background that absolutely built the country. But I think that people can move to Australia and embrace its values, and with generations that come after that, you can absolutely be Australian. I don't think that's the identity. But so I think that's why you're seeing there's a lot of neo-Nazis and white supremacists now, and that's becoming more and more of a topic. And then with that, it always moves into anti-Semitism. That's just always the direction it goes.
Yeah, that's That's interesting. Question: Paramount Tactical is not Candace Owens violated the YouTube terms of service agreement. How has her account not been suspended or terminated? I would argue that she has. There's multiple elements that we've brought up on this show before that seems to be she's in clear violation of the terms of service. Also, when I'm talking about the left, are adversaries, political and foreign. The other thing that people have to realize is let's not pretend that Google isn't a far left extreme organization. And of course, that goes with YouTube as well, which is why you've always been able to see extreme leftists, whatever. The craziest stuff from the left, you can find it on YouTube all day long. Whereas the conservative voices have always been censored. This goes with the Second Amendment things as well. They've continued. I've had over 90 videos now, over 90 videos in the last 5.5 months removed from YouTube. Almost all of which were 2A videos, talking about firearms and things like that. All of which at one time met their terms of service, but they have mission creep. They continue to change those terms of service, and 1 minute you're in compliance and the next minute you're not. And it's not like that is, that all these videos that you had are now grandfathered in. They'll go back and hit you with strikes and everything else. And by the way, that's another thing that's going around. I was removed from YouTube for a week. I got a strike. I think it was November. I heard now it's been going around that I was removed for false content, or YouTube caught me lying. Folks, it was for a gun video. I showed it on a live stream. I showed you exactly. I pulled up like that. Look, I got a strike. This is why I was off for a week. And it was for a gun video that had been up for over 2 years that they decided to give me a strike retroactively on. I also think that my videos are being mass reported by both Barron and Candace's cult followers. So take that for what it is. But yeah, she's definitely violating the plain language of the terms of services, but it doesn't matter. Somebody just posted that the other day that they highlighted the terms of service, and we have too in the past. I can't think of it off the top of my head. Gary, you make me proud to be an American and military veteran. Thank you, Cats are us. That means a lot to me. Thank you. I'm engaged to a veteran who makes me love America more than I've ever loved it before, Gary, and Gary adds even more to it. Thank you, Mackenzie. Again, that means a lot to me. Gary, make me proud to be an American. Oh, that's the same one. I don't know how that went back. Anytime I come across a Candace cult member, I love asking them what shape they think the Earth is. I love asking them their thoughts on space and dinosaurs.
This is a good point, actually. This is a good point to make.
Really
is that it's never one conspiracy. You know what I mean? It's never like, do you know what? I don't know about Tyler Robinson. I think there was like an exploding mic or something. But we absolutely went to the moon. The Earth is absolutely round. JFK was absolutely killed. But like, it's always like, if it's one, it's all of them.
Yeah. What is the root of these brainwashing podcasters? What's their agenda exactly? Is it just to get Democrats in power? Like, I do think that this has turned into a political movement to undermine the Trump administration. And I think that Candace was unwittingly used, and ultimately, the more she spoke about Trump, look, the fact is that the left has always seen Trump as the number one threat. The number one threat below Trump that got Trump elected was Charlie Kirk and TPUSA. They're responsible for 2.5 million. That's how many votes have been attributed to Charlie Kirk and TPUSA. They have to take TPUSA out to win the midterms. They're just way too effective at getting people out to vote. And I do think that there is a contingent of the left that thought that TPUSA would die with Charlie Kirk. And then when that didn't happen, that enraged them. And I think for different reasons, Candace Owens is in that same box, if you will. I think she had real animus toward Charlie Kirk. And I think she wanted to be able to finish TPUSA off. She was fired from TPUSA. They were not best friends. She's never been on his podcast once since 2019. Never once been on his podcast. He's never once appeared on her podcast. she quit following him, and I don't know if he quit following her or not, but I know she quit following him on social media somewhere around 2024. There was a clear full break. And Charlie was the type, he's not going to go out on stage and publicly air his grievances with he was too much of a peacemaker. And to some extent, I wish he would have told the world who Candace was before we lost him. But of course, that's not something you plan for, and at the time, it didn't have any relevance. He was not going to divide. She was still sort of considered conservative and still sort of a conservative voice. He wasn't going to go out there and create conflict. But I can tell you right now, I know from talking to multiple people behind the scenes that I now have been able to talk with that were behind the scenes with Charlie Kirk, and were also knew Candace Owens behind the scenes. There was a real animus between them. Charlie would not take her calls. She can't produce texts since 2019. She was fired. She was fired from TPUSA. She was forced to resign. She was she was never invited to AmFest in 2024, nor was she invited to AmFest 2025. That should be something that you call a clue. The FBI would call it a clue. So I don't know. Take that for what it is. I think there is a real effort to continue to destroy TPUSA. And the other thing, not only are these crazy conspiracists, you start talking to these people that are Candace. A lot of them are leftists. They like what Candace is doing to TPUSA. A lot of these people will openly say, I never liked Charlie Kirk. I never liked TPUSA. And then there's these other people that are just complete liars that are suddenly pretending to be allies of Charlie Kirk and TPUSA, that you go back and find all their tweets, whether it's Evan Kilgore, whether it's Ian Carroll, whether it's what's that other chick's name? I got a bunch of her tweets that they compiled that just talk crap to Charlie Kirk. Ian Carroll put out a tweet 3 days before he died, calling him, a servant of Israel, essentially. I can pull that up. I posted that the other day. So these people are just, they wanted TPUSA destroyed when Charlie Kirk was alive. They just couldn't. And now that he's gone, they want to finish him off.
Yeah. Well, also you have, like Nick Fuentes was, in many ways, he saw Charlie Kirk as his nemesis.
Yeah.
And he was open about that. He's there's the videos of him saying, like, I took your baby, and all sorts of obscene language that I don't get you flagged for.
Yeah.
But he's saying that he pretty much he planted, he got his groypers in there, and he actively attempted to try and take over the TPUSA, and Nick Fuentes, to this day, even with Nick Fuentes and the beef that he's got with Candace Owens, he still counts Candace Owens as an ally. He even just said that last week.
Yeah.
He still says, look, all the stuff I've said about her, she's still on our side.
Yeah, and he openly has said that he's going to vote Democrat. I mean, look, that's the op, folks. There is we've talked about this before. There's accelerationists on both sides. All right, we go into horseshoe theory. You got the accelerationists on the left that are responsible for Antifa, George Floyd riots. They want to just burn down the system. And then you have very similar types on the right, including Nick Fuentes, and I would put Candace Owens in there. They want to divide the right. And they know that our foreign adversaries know exactly the mentality of the American people, where our morale is at, where our weakness is, where our vulnerability is. They can look at us and say, you know what? We know that they are extremely untrustworthy of the government. And if we start talking about Epstein files, we start boosting people that are talking about these messages, it will fracture the right. We start DJing in there this anti-Semitic, anti-Israel stuff. That is a vulnerability on the right that will be effective. And if we lose the midterms, we will lose 2028. We just will. And we can't afford it. And this whole idea, this third party thing, it might work in Australia, it doesn't work in the United States. Whether you like it or not.
Well, we got a completely different voting system. So you've got a first past the post.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have that. We don't have that. So we've got a bunch of different parties. It's like Europe. So it's very different. You've literally just got two parties. Those are your choices.
Yeah, and you know, it is a two-party system, and it is always the right that comes up with like, oh God, we're so principled that we can't accept what the Republicans. And I'm with you guys. Like in sentiment, in theory, I'm with you. I don't like half these Republicans in there, but there is such a huge divide between the option that we have on the right compared to the option that we have on the left, and like it's black and white. And while I don't agree with the ineffectiveness and some of their policies and some of their capitulation, it's still a much better option. And, you know, it is always the right that comes up, oh, you know, we're so principled, we got to come up with this third party. That's how you lose elections. Part of our democratic republic that we have, all right, part of our political system is built into it is compromise. And we can throw all the fits that you want in the primaries and shoot for the best candidate, but the left is indivisible. Like they're going to vote blue no matter who. And we're over here like, well, you know, I don't know, freaking the dumb stuff that we want about like, oh, he didn't do enough. Not enough people are in jail. Well, we have this justice system that, you know, we're not the Biden administration. The Trump is not the Biden administration. Like they're going to apply the rule of law, and they're going to actually prosecute people constitutionally, which requires investigations, which requires times. I don't like it either, but it's like the choice couldn't be more clear. You have the left that wants to destroy this country, undermine this country, that wants socialized medicine, wants socialized everything, wants our borders open, wants to completely have our country overran by foreigners, and the worst among them, that doesn't want voter ID, that is going to steal every election, that wants to pack the court. We're like, if they get in office, folks, I'm much more cynical, and I don't think, I have a hard time believing that we're going to survive much longer than the Democrats taking office in 2028 if they get all three branches. You know, they get the House, the Senate, and the executive branch. So that's my thought. And by the way, they will get all three branches of government because they're going to pack the Supreme Court. They're going to load all the other. They're going to load our federal court system with judges that are leftist activists that are going to legislate from the bench. We couldn't have more to lose. I do think it's an existential threat. I think it's that serious. And I don't like every candidate on the right either. But you know what? It's at the end of the day, you got to vote conservative. You got to. That's our best chance moving forward.
Well, I just want to also, Jeremy Boring, the former Daily Wire CEO, he made I think an astute observation on his show that he started, where he was saying that, you know, a lot of these podcasters, and I think Candace Owens is the perfect example of this. You know, you have people on the right, and you know, Donald Trump's in office, and this is the thing: it's that, you know, selling optimism and victory, it doesn't actually work well for engagement. It doesn't work well. No, so this is the problem. So now you have these people on the right where, how do you maintain an audience? You know, outrage works, grievances, appealing to that idea that everything wrong in your life is because of someone else. And so that's what you've now seen from a lot of these podcasters since Trump started his second term. And I think that's very, very true. And I think it's very, very dangerous. You know, it's the same thing with this conspiracy theory thing that we talk about. If someone's continually telling you that, you know, the reason that everything's wrong in your life is because you're a victim of something higher up than you, and that you have no power effectively, because, you know, someone's got their thumb pushing down on you, that's not good. And it's not even true. You know, if no one's even selling you a glimmer of hope and just continually just like shoveling shit on you and telling you that you've got nothing you can do about it, they're manipulating you. That's you know, that's abusive, and you need to wake up to that.
Yeah, if they're telling you, you know what, things are so bad you shouldn't vote, or matter of fact, the only way that this gets better is to put like, the American people feel abused and we're traumatized from especially the Biden administration, COVID, January 6th, weaponization of the DOJ, you know, what they did to Trump the first term, pushed the Russia hoax, the Steele dossier, like all of that is why we don't trust the government. And what they're saying is, okay, Trump's actually worse than all that. And the way that we fix it is we put those people back in power. Are you an idiot? Like that's your solution to this? And you know, to hit what you said, there is power and there is views in opposition. There's lots of these podcasters. I think even Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly kind of fall into this. They either have to be on the inside or they're opposition. So for instance, all during the Biden administration, they were like, vote Trump. We endorse Trump. We love Trump. Trump's the best ever. But once they got into power, we saw that Tucker Carlson was kind of pushed out of that circle, wasn't trusted. And the same thing with Candace, Megyn Kelly. And Candace was never on the inside of this. But opposition has some strength. So if they're not on the inside and they're on the outside, they have to maintain an audience. They have to go with opposition because opposition always sells. Has Nathan been asked by Harple's or Tyler Robinson's team to do a video of Candace's contradictions?
I haven't been asked. I haven't been asked by Macron's, but I'd be over the moon if any of it was used against Candace.
Yeah. The Butler shooting never saw CNN at any of Trump's rallies, and they were. Yeah, I mean, that can be a coincidence, right? The other thing that they never saw at Trump's rallies prior to that was the Secret Service counter sniper teams. So I don't know. And there may be something to that. I don't think that's enough of a coincidence to sell me on it. I mean, they could have just decided that they were going to cover it at the time. Gary, will you meet face to face with Candace to prove your innocence? I don't need to prove my innocence at all. I'm not proving my innocence to anyone. I may talk to you guys about some stuff, but I'm not going to prove my innocence to Candace. You got to be out of your mind. Again, it's content creation through extortion. That's what it is. Oh, guess what? Gary's going to be in studio today, and he's going to prove to us that he's innocent of whatever these claims are. And guess what? No matter what I showed up with, Gary wouldn't be innocent. She'd have another 2 weeks worth of content to go through things and find misspellings and, oh, this is fake because there's a comma in the wrong place. Like, no, that's not how the system works.
I love that. I love that in the Harple lawsuit where Harple was like, I'm not going to feed her any engagement whatsoever. It was great. It was really good. I was like, man, this guy that's a smart man.
Yeah, no, 100% he is. The new Candace conspiracy is Erica Cyberdyne system T200 cyborg sent back in the future to kill Charlie. We're not far off, man. We're not far off. Class action lawsuit against Candace, is that possible? I have no idea. That's something we'll have to have the beard lawyer on or another lawyer on again, and we will.
I can say that I've spoken to at least I've spoken to 2 people who, back when it was right at the peak of the insanity post Charlie Kirk, where she was just firing at anyone, that they were legitimately looking at taking out lawsuits against her. And one of them was someone who she accused. She accused both of them, but one of them she explicitly implicated as part of the plot. But it's like you're saying, it's like these things are so expensive. So expensive.
And I know somebody earlier said, can YouTube be sued? YouTube and other platforms like it have so many built-in protections through legislation and through other protections that it's very unlikely that they would be able to be sued for anything. Yeah. Gary, Candace calling Gary dumb is like a 5 foot tall guy calling an NBA center short. It's just the farthest thing from reality. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It is like someone that is so ignorant of so much and has so little life experiences and looks at reality through such a small lens and just displays ignorance and stupidity on a regular basis. You know, she wants to pull out and try to shame me because I showed a text that I shouldn't have showed. It was dumb. It was silly. You know, I mean, my God, if you think that's going to end my day, get out of here. Like I make bigger mistakes on that 3 times a day. Again, it was silly. You want to try to beat me over the head about it? Like again, just like I said, there's literal cottage industries, and we have one in front of us that of content creators that do nothing but make blooper reels of Candace Owens. She can't speak and say basic words correctly, and she does it over and over and over again. And the thing that I find funny about it, it kind of gives you some insight, or at least in my mind, and this is just speculation on my mind, so I want to be fair, but it does give you some insight. I imagine that she is such a tyrant behind the scenes of like her production team and things like that, that they clearly don't feel that they can correct her and be like, there's no hard R in macabre. It's macabre, not macabre.
But this is the thing. It's like, do you know what? There's nothing wrong with mispronouncing words. Like we all do it. But this is to your point. It's like I've posted something before. I ran with bad information one time about her and posted a video, and she raked me over the coals for it. And you know, I owned up to it. As soon as I realized it was bad information, I said, like, you know, I'm now, it was bad, you know, I'm going to do better. I owned up to my mistake, and learn from it, you know, because that, especially if you're covering Candace Owens, like that is your obligation to do if you make a mistake. But that is what she's entirely incapable of doing. And I think the mispronouncing words somehow really just kind of like hits the sweet spot of that her ego is so large that she cannot even cop to the fact that she mangles so many just basic words. And it really speaks to, like, you're right, her arrogance of just Milo Yiannopoulos, who now goes on her show and is another one of her little attack dogs. In the past, he's posted saying Candace's flaw is that she doesn't realize how dumb she is. That's her main weakness. And he even said that when Candace started converting to becoming a conservative, she provided her with a book of, like, these are the must reads of being a conservative. And he was like, she didn't read a single one of them. She was too dumb. She didn't care. So yeah, that's the importance. Like the mispronouncing words is that, that's not, people mispronounce words. It's a hubris, that even now we're seeing it's going to be her downfall.
Well, that's one of the things that I've thought long and hard about. Is like, she became famous because she was a female Black conservative. And then I started thinking about this. And one of the things that it really hit me, I went back and actually watched, because I watched it when it came out, but her interview with Joe Rogan. And he started pressing her on some of the things that she said. And I don't even remember what some of them were off the top of my head, but
climate change was the best one.
She had no depth to what she was saying. And it hit me. I was like, hold on. This chick doesn't have any fundamental philosophical foundation whatsoever. What this is what she's done is all she's done is parroted exactly what other famous conservatives have said. And it resonates with people, and it sounds new because she's a Black female conservative. That's the thing that made her marketable. And that's all she's ever done. She's never put out one piece of, original, not one single original thought, conservative thought ever. I've never heard her say it. It's
you're completely on the money. Completely on the money. I remember watching that. I think it was 2019, that Joe Rogan interview. I remember watching that, and I picked up on that as well. And it was especially with climate change. Now it doesn't matter what your position is on climate change. It was very, very clear that she was saying the things that you're meant to say because you're on the right. And as soon as Joe Rogan attempted to drill down of like, okay, but why? Like, why do you believe that? She had nothing. She had nothing whatsoever. She was just saying the things that you're meant to say because it's virtue signaling. She was just virtue signaling to the right. And she's always done that. Tree of Logic is a great, great account who is exposing her from the beginning. You can go on my YouTube page. I've got an interview, a video I did with Tree of Logic last year, where she was the first one to just pick up that Candace Owens was a complete phony. And she did this because she had a docking site and she was attempting to dox Tree of Logic. So it was personal for Tree of Logic. But she also was just very, very smart, because Tree of Logic is a black woman. So she was very, very smart, where she realized that Candace Owens was just copying all the same, black conservative pro-Trump talking points. She was just ripping them off. It's just that Candace Owens was, good looking, seemingly articulate, presented well, that she was able to sell them well and climb the ladder. And you're absolutely right. She's done this with every single thing. She's never done an original piece of investigative work in her lifetime. Whether it's Macron's, she took that from the French guy, Poussard. Like every single time she's piggybacking off other people's work. And now she's in a position where she's got her tip line, so her audience can just feed her material. But you're on the money. There is nothing original about Candace Owens.
No, couldn't agree more. Was there a particular clip from that you would like to share? This is the video. And real quick, the eclectic journalist, I'm a case follower, and I also have never seen a case with so much evidence and so much evidence that we knew before trial. I agree. I mean, it is, and that's not even the tip of the iceberg of what they actually have. We're going to see so much more during the trial. But Nathan, on this video, is there any particular point in here? It's a 20-minute video.
This is a good one. I suggest you go to my channel. This is a really good one where it's the people who say, now they say, what happened to Candace Owens? They're like, what happened to social Owens? Because they're like, oh, she used to be smart and on the money. And that's where I encourage you to go and watch this, because it gives a real insight to who she was before she converted to being a conservative. And it shows that she's never changed. She just hid the crazy well. When she was at Daily Wire, she pretended to be a credible commentator, but she's always been nuts. And I think she's always had those leftist instincts that we're now seeing, vigilante justice and all the like. So this is a good one to really drill into the doxing website and to a bit of a past as a leftist before converting to becoming a conservative.
Let's play a little bit of this.
Autopsy. And apparently they've already compiled a database of individuals online who harass people or bully people.
Words are real. People don't assign, there's no humanity behind what they say. They just think it's not real. And that's what technology takes away from children, the fact that it is real. And you would never in a million years say those things to someone's face.
Candace Owens, aka Red Pill Black, is going to put my life in danger by doxing me. All because I typed mean words on the internet.
This entire controversy, people calling you out, originated from Tree of Logic, right? She was the first people were like, you're just jealous of Candace.
It was never about doxing people. It was honestly, to me, jealousy.
Like, no, I'm not trying to get killed because I left policing, and in the process of being a police officer, I put two men in jail, federal penitentiary because of me, and they vowed, through most of their time incarcerated, that when they get out, they will find me and they will kill me. They would rape me first and then they would kill me. So I think I have an interest in making sure my dox isn't out there.
It is Candace Owens, the founder of socialautopsy.com.
The first ever search database that compiles and allows the public to easily access the digital footprint of individuals and companies. These individuals are your teachers, doctors, neighbors, and business owners. And for the first time ever, you will be given the chance to run a real background check on them to see what these people represent behind closed doors.
What we want to do is clean up the internet so that we can make it a safer place.
As you know, that website is a thorough dox. It dox any and everybody, including children. And so I wanted my dox off that site. But most of all, I wanted the site shut down because I'm just against doxing.
Joining me today is a YouTuber who has done pretty much the scariest thing that one person can do.
This interview, folks, if you haven't seen this interview alone, I've watched this several months ago. I've seen it before that, but
she has come out as conservative. Candace Owens, aka Red Pill Black.
Mike Cernovic gave her the name Red Pill Black because her real name, Candace Owens, was connected to the doxing site Social Autopsy and all of the things that she did back then.
Is the truth about our activism,
especially with her blog.
What's up, everyone? My name is Candace Owens. I'm the CEO of degree180.com,
where she talked about how to get medication on the low, and how she talked about Trump and saying that he had a mushroom penis that's 2 inches tall, and that's the reason why he's unhinged. She was anti-Trump and very pro-Hillary.
I considered myself a Democrat and a liberal about a year and a half ago as Trump was kind of rising up.
But you didn't vote for Donald Trump, to be clear.
I did not.
I was watching Harmful Opinions video, and Harmful Opinions was really clowning us. When I say us, I'm talking about conservatives and right wingers. He was like, "Oh, you know, Candace Owens, the one that had a doxing site. Yeah, she's now under the moniker of Red Pill Black, and she's got the conservatives to fund that doxing site. So it looks like that doxing site that we took down is going to eventually come up." And I was like, "What?"
The unpublished site currently has about 20,000 profiles, but the creator's goal is to launch Kickstarter Denial Be Damned with 150,000.
The site wasn't live at this point, but you were shown how to kind of access it to see what information they had, and that's how you found it.
They just had they had a vulnerability in the security part of the website, and it was just easy to get in. And I followed the directions and I got in. First thing I did was look for my docs to see if I was on there. And I looked for it not thinking I was going to be on there. But then when I saw, I just can't even tell you, Nathan, like, I can laugh about it now, but I wasn't laughing at the time. I was horrified to see my docs, my full docs, and to see the pictures that were there. And these were different.
Yeah, folks, go watch this full video. Nathan, who was that? She had a debate. Let me see. It was they just showed
what?
She had that debate with Ruben there, basically trying to moderate it with that other girl, and that was pretty wild to watch. If people haven't seen that debate,
well, it's with Blair White.
There we go.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on.
Yeah. So, anyways.
But yeah, that video, so Tree of Logic, like you saw, so she was an ex-cop. And so Candace Owens had this doxing site with all her information. And so she'd put away people who vowed that they were going to find her, this ex-cop. But basically, that video is just showing Tree of Logic is in many ways not bitter, but she looks at what's happening, especially now, and she's like, "I tried to warn you guys 10 years ago. You didn't listen to me." And yeah, in many ways, she's right. In many ways, she is right. It's like you said, Candace was a DEI hire from the right, and she should have never been embraced, never been given the spotlight. All the warning signs were there, and. So that's where when you see the social autopsy stuff, it's pretty close to indecipherable to what she's doing now to many people, including Erica Kirk.
Yeah. Gary, the stepping into the picture after recording is too fake. So is the stops and starts. Please go back to the old way of the overproducing, killing your authenticity. So a bunch of you people out there, first of all, I literally hit record and I come over here and I typically just have a bad habit of starting to talk before I sit down. Like I saw somebody else, like, who's sponsoring? Somebody else said, who's sponsoring this your new format of video? Folks, go watch all my old produced content, pre-produced content, like recorded content. It's the same, like, and sometimes what I did in that video, why there's a few cuts in there, and there's always going to be some cuts, is you start going on a tangent. All right. You're talking, and then like during the edit process, like, all right, I got to cut this down. I just kind of belabored that point a little too much. So there's nothing different from my old content to now. Now, what a lot of people have only seen is I've been doing a lot more live content. I enjoy doing live content. But there is a time when I think, a produced content is the way to go, and sitting down and really hammering up, and also making sure, like, a lot of people are going to watch 3 hours. We're now 2.5 hours into this, right? A lot of people are going to watch that. If I have a message, I want to get it out, and I want to make sure that it is exactly how I want it presented. And so I'm going to continue to do that. And it's no different than you go watch my old, instead of going to the lives, go watch my old content. Same thing, nothing different. Same studio, same Gary, same everything. Like, nothing different. I don't know what. Look, Grace, I don't know if I've ever even seen you in the chat before. What I feel like this might be is like, Gary, that was way too effective. You got to stop doing that. Maybe that's not you. Maybe you're being authentic. But I don't care about how you perceive my authenticity. All right. I am authentic. I'm telling you people exactly what I want to say, how I want to say it. And sometimes when you're sitting there recording and just looking at a camera, which is actually kind of hard to do. It's not like talking to a real person.
Yeah, that's why I didn't do it.
Yeah, like it's tough. It's tough. And you know, I've gotten better at it, but it's still hard. Blake Neff was Tucker's writer up until 2020. That's why Tucker knew what to say. You're right, Gary. You're right, Gary. We are now seeing his true self. That is interesting. I just think that he was pandering. I think he was pandering to an audience all the way up to the point where he got the Tucker Carlson network. And between that, and again, he's selling millions of dollars. Like, dude is getting mega rich off his pouches, which, by the way, up till September, I was the biggest Tucker fan. I still have like 6 rolls of his Alps pouches up there that I haven't touched. I won't touch because from September, when he went, I saw some weird things happening, and I love Tucker so much. And this is true. I love Tucker so much. I kept making excuses for him. Where I drew the line was his speech. It was actually like 3 days after Charlie Kirk's funeral, memorial speech, where he's like, you know, I don't know, maybe there's some guys in a back room in another country, you know, sitting around eating hummus, you know, planning Charlie Kirk's death. I was like, it was like the record scratched, right? Like, did he just say that Israel was responsible for killing Charlie Kirk? And I was like, just aghast. And then a couple days later, I see him on air saying, no, I wasn't talking about Israel. Like, oh, like, oh, that's crazy. Like, what? I was like, I'm done with you. You are a liar. You know exactly what you were doing. You are dead to me at that point. And
also, people say the thing of like, you know, because he left Fox, he's now saying what he wants. But he was saying that he could say what he wanted at Fox. He had his studio at his home. It was built there. He says he wrote his own script. He claims there was no editorial interference. Miranda Devine is a journalist who was friends with him. She says, similar to, I think, what the person before wrote, where she says that he did have people around him who helped to kind of curb a lot of the craziness. You know, there was staff and some more editorial and producers and things. And so now what we're seeing is pure uncut Tucker. So I do kind of subscribe to that.
Yeah. Grace is back. Grace Papaccio, it seems people like your scripting, overproducing. You are? Is there an E missing there? I can't read this, Grace. You might need some scripting. Congrats. I guess that's how you make it. When you recording stops and then resumes in a different angle. First, I don't have multiple cameras. I have one camera. So there's no like boom, 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 boom. Okay. I got one camera right here set up. I got more cameras, but I just don't like doing that because now I got to edit 3 or 4 cameras. That's crazy. You lose your place reading. I don't read anything. Sometimes right here, as a matter of fact, for that video, I had some bullet points that I wanted to cover for that video. They're still right here. That was it. I've actually, look, especially for the gun tuber stuff and following, you know, one of the things I guess is like a new creator, you start going to these, like I used to follow Think Media and a couple of these other content creator YouTube channels that like tell you how to make content, or even really successful content creators, and they talk about their process. I used to always listen to all that. And all of them, almost without exception, all believed in using a teleprompter. And there was multiple times where I actually have a teleprompter up on a shelf up there that I've used once, never made it through a video. But they said, hey, look, type out your scripts, put it up there, and then you'll get better at reading. And I tried it multiple times and just couldn't do it. I can't do a teleprompter. So anyways, that's where I'm at, Grace. I appreciate it. Good advice. I'll check out your YouTube channel. I'm sure you got millions of followers. I appreciate that. Sure, you're big on this. I keep missing the lives. MilkBar, you need to do a compilation of Charlie versus Candace talking about how he met Erica. Do you have an email?
Yeah, you can email me the milkbartv@gmail.com.
Chef's kiss to the scamdus mispronunciation compilation. Thanks, Nate. Charlie debunked her in at least 3 videos. The other thing that Charlie talked a lot about, more than one video, and very forcefully, is he talked about how married men do not have, he doesn't think it's appropriate for married men to have girlfriends. My wife is also ascribes to that as well. So, and I agree. Like, I agree with that. It causes more problems than it's worth. According to the Cinema Shogun's recap of Candace Owens today, 2 Paramount Tactical rants saying you got a payout from the government DOD. LOL. Yeah, I know. Gary, Nate, keep doing what you're doing. We need truth tellers. I agree. Forget what the other guy said. Your show is amazing. Thanks for the feedback. And Doe, keep going, Mr. Melton. Okay. Awesome. Well, Nathan, I'm glad we got this opportunity. The last time I had you on, I felt like we had, I forgot who else we had on the show, but we had a couple of different content creators, and we didn't get to sit and talk and get to know each other. And I really appreciate this, and I hope you come back on soon. Any final words for the viewers out there?
No, I appreciate what you're doing, Gary. I think I was telling Jen before when you had your blackout. But it's great to have people like you now covering Candace, because it means that I don't have to watch her as much as I feel like. All right, there's some other people who have who are carrying some of the water. So I'm very grateful for that. But you do great stuff. I like that there's people, you do what you do, I do what I do. It's very different, but it's the same mission. So that's great. You've clearly got a great audience as well who've got their head switched on. So all of that gives me a lot of hope, because when you watch a lot of Candace and other personalities, it can make you a little bit cynical towards the way things are going. So all of that it restores some faith in humanity. But otherwise, I just encourage people to go to the fundraiser, givesendgo.com/free speech versus Tate. We're in a real fight mode now, where we've got to raise funds to cover a lot of these legal bills. Like I said, I really believe that the Tate's mission is to try and make our lives misery by bankrupting us and dragging us through years of court. And it's already been 1 year. So we're counting on the support of people who believe that stuff like what I'm doing and what you're doing, that there's real worth behind it. So, I'd love some support and to encourage people to go there. So, if you can, it would mean a lot.
Hey, Jen, before we go, we throw that link down in the comments, but also make sure that we get that put in the description. So folks, go down in the description. We'll make sure we have that link up. I'm going to go post it. Share that with me on X too. I'll make sure I post it on X. And seriously, Nathan, don't hesitate. You can do it 3 times a week. I don't care. Like, hey, Gary, you mind posting this again? I will. And because I need you to do that, because I'll forget. I'll get wrapped up in whatever.
Appreciate it.
So any way that I can possibly support you, let me know. And that is, I love what you do as well. And you're right. Look, the left and even Candace Owens, like, they are organized. Like, you got Candace Owens, you got Ian Carroll, you got Ryan Matta, you got Baron Coleman, you got Coach Colin, you got this whole network of these grifters that are working and coordinating behind the scenes, and they're beating us at that because for some reason I think we do like our own independence, and like we just the right in general, the conservative right, but those on the side of truth tend to not coordinate, and we need to get more organized. So again, keep me in mind on any of that stuff. If there's something I can help you with or, promote, let me know. And I just
Yeah,
think
well, I'm planning on starting a stream, even maybe just weekly to start with, where I can kind of just pull all the videos that I've been working on.
Sure.
But I want to have guests as well, so I'd love to have you on.
Anytime.
That'd be great.
Anytime. And I don't care what time it is in Australia or what time it is here. You name the time, I'll be there. Lord willing, and the creek don't rise, and I don't have something going on that I just can't do it, but I will be there for you anytime. No Soup for Knowles, Grace, chat, and Gary's replies for my new favorite show. Yeah, folks, listen, support the creators that you think are telling the truth, whether that is through memberships. Look, this isn't free. This content's not free. At a minimum, it costs a thumbs up, subscribe, and then share our content. And then if you want to go above and beyond that, that's the thing, is like, it's crazy to watch, like when you Baron Coleman and Candace Owens, you watch, they get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars at super chats. Like, the money just pours in. And again, it goes back to what Charlie said. The truth isn't always popular, but it's always worth it. I don't care whether you do that or not, but I hope that you do support us in many different ways. At a minimum, like, subscribe, share, all those things. That goes a long way. But if you want to support us financially, that helps too. It allows us to dedicate more time and resources to a lot of this stuff. And, can't do it without it. So make sure you guys go support Nathan. Make sure you go like and subscribe to his channel. If you're not following him on X, you're wrong. A lot of great content there, a lot of great commentary. I love his tweets as well. But Nathan, thank you for everything that you do. Thanks for coming on. You don't go anywhere. I don't think I missed any super chats, folks. If I did, I promise you it wasn't intentional. I got a private chat here. Is something going on? No. Anyways, thank you for watching. Thank you for all your love and support. We appreciate you. Nathan, don't go anywhere. But for everybody else, until next time, stay armed, stay ready. We'll talk to you.